the Appalachian Podcast. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me is my co-host, once again, Simon Winch. Simon.
I don't know what to say. I made a disclaimer earlier today that I wasn't going to drop any F-bombs. I had to retract it after having had a conversation with Phillip. And who knows what's going to happen, because I'm actually pretty upset with what's going on here in regards to the management, not just really of Rocky Mount, but Franklin County and our low-level government officials. That it's insane.
Simon, you're jumping right into the show before we even have time to go back and forth for a few minutes.
I will go back and forth, but I just had to say I retracted my disclaimer for dropping F-bombs, so don't be surprised if a few slip out.
Yeah, so if you're listening to the show, clearly you know who we're speaking with here today. We've posted it on Facebook. It's had a ton of reactions. Right before we get to that, Simon, it seems like every time we have you on the show, which you are now an integral part of the show, you hear it more often, it always seems to be a contentious episode, and that's not necessarily how it is planned out to be, but you just have to strike while the iron is hot, and for the time being, we haven't lined up again. It's been since, I think, the wood shop where we had a lot of fun, because and I think the Pig River Precision Range, it was fun, although the Second Amendment is a contentious conversation.
Well, it is for some.
And we had a good time with it, though. But since then, the state of Appalachia, very contentious, although we had a lot of fun with that one.
There was a lot of alcohol involved in that one, too, funnily enough.
Yeah. And if you go back and listen to that show, it's kind of amazing because, that show, we're pretty much talking, you're hardcore anarchist, libertarian, split away from the union, split away from the state kind of conversation. And then last week, we have Brian and Darnell on from Black Lives Matter. And if you go in the comment sections, we're simultaneously getting called Trump-supporting bigot fascists. And another guy, like 2 seconds later, in the same comment, is calling us Marxist terrorist supporting.
Bizarre.
It is mind-boggling to watch the mouth breathers out there get on and comment. And the thing is most of them, actually none of them, have any stake in the game. None of them have any teeth in it. They just see a headline and they decide to comment and prove that they are as guilty as mob mentality as the ones they're pointing fingers at. That being said, the people who hit me up locally, the people that actually listen, the people that actually matter in this town, all said, hey, it was a good conversation. I'd sit down and have a beer with them gentlemen. Don't agree with them. Some of them said they don't agree with us, but you had a conversation.
Being an internet warrior can make you very brave.
Yeah, they get ribbons for it these days.
Well, there's the biggest joke of the lot. But, as an internet warrior, if you're not going to put your name behind the comments that you make and you hide behind some pseudonym, you're nothing but a coward. So your credibility's gone down the toilet, and quite frankly, you can piss off because I don't care.
Darnell called me on Sunday, and I missed a call. I was hauling in groceries, and I called him back. I was like, what's going on, brother? He said, man, I was just checking in on you. I said, what do you mean? He said, I was reading that comment section, man. I was making sure you're all right. I said, dude, I absolutely love it. I said, because of the people on there, no matter what side they're coming from, I was just dropping them. You have to go read it, but I was dropping it doesn't matter which side it was. I was enjoying being able to put them back into their place. And then, the comments would drop off after that, because once you introduce a hard truth to somebody, they have nowhere else to go but away. And I said, I enjoy it, dude. I enjoy exposing these haters. I enjoy exposing the people who are hypocrites and liars. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle they are on, because they both showed up. Both sides showed up in that comment section.
You're not expecting to change someone's opinion over a 2 or 3 hour conversation. It's just not going to happen, right? I think we know that. So what they're investing in is nothing more than discourse, and that's not going to cure any of the problems that we're facing now anyway. So you're making yourself irrelevant by doing that.
Well, one of the biggest comments that I always found a little bizarre was, why are you sitting down with these terrorists and BL and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, for one, These gentlemen aren't that. They weren't in Minneapolis. They weren't in Chicago. There weren't buildings being burned in Rocky Mount. There weren't things going on that were negative here. So why not sit down with them and speak with them and show them that there are people in this community that do want to at least listen to what you have to say, so it doesn't turn into Chicago or Milwaukee or Minneapolis here in this town. So you don't have people feeling like that's their last resort. They have to go through here and tear stuff up to make a point. Why not reach out and that's what we did.
You're not falling into or making that divisive argument, by opening up communication. Because if you're not prepared to open the communication lines up, you're being a fascist.
Yes.
If it's my way or the highway, and you're not prepared to compromise in any way, shape, or form, you're not prepared to listen to someone's opinion, you might as well call yourself a fascist.
Yes.
And again, it is not exclusive to the right wing. You can be a left wing fascist too.
Almost.
And unfortunately, the progressive fascists at the moment are leading the path, and I'm here to take it back.
Oh, absolutely. And give them gentlemen credit for actually coming on here and at least speaking with us and talking with us and going back and forth. And although we didn't agree on a lot of things, we did agree on some things. We agreed on some of the things that mattered. And
we had a civil conversation.
And like you said, we're not going to change anybody's mind in 3 hours, but maybe we meet again. And then again and again, we have these conversations, and maybe we find somewhere to really meet in the middle and we really start making a little bit of a difference. And for anybody out there and I just want people to just step back for 1 second. This is my last point I want to make about last week's show, because I'm super excited about talking about this week's show, because it's even more contentious and it's even more.
Thank you, Billy.
It's even more advantageous for the local community here to listen to, because it affects not only us, but it affects Brian and Darnell from last week and everybody else that they represent.
It affects future generations here,
yes.
Quite frankly, and that's how serious it is.
Yes. So if you're somebody, okay, just sit back for 1 second. If you're on the right and you look at January 6th the way that I do, and I'm not right or left, as you all know, I'm a very middle anarchist libertarian, hate the government. But if you look at it at January 6th, that was not an insurrection. That was not. It was a violent protest, and not as violent as other things that had taken place in D.C. just previously. That being said, if you're on the right, you're sitting there saying, well,
it was trespass, mate.
There were agent provocateurs in the midst. There were federal agents that were disguised as morons, and they were pointing people in and waving them in. Fair enough. I will go with that, and I will say that is most likely true. On the same token, is it that hard to believe that maybe in some of these cities where these riots are going on, where all these young people have been trapped in their house for 6 to 8 months, not allowed to go anywhere, not allowed to do anything? If they do go, they have a curfew, they have to wear a mask. You have entrapped these people, and then all of a sudden they're allowed to go outside and protest. Couldn't it be an agent provocateur that threw that first brick through a window, or set that first fire, or did that first Molotov cocktail, and then everybody else just followed suit because there is a mob mentality? If you all don't recall, there were pictures of pallets of bricks randomly set in different street corners in some of these major cities. So
there was money behind that.
So
follow the money.
Exactly. So I'm not going to associate the people in this town, in this community that represent Black Lives Matter, for better or worse, whether I agree with them or not. I'm not going to associate them with the things that are going on in these big cities. And that's all I ask anybody that listens to do, is just listen to what they have to say and make your own judgment. But don't, we get it. And we both said this. We're not going to support Black Lives Matter because of the name. And I get that, but just listen to them too. That's all we're asking.
They had some valid points to make.
And pull yourself back and realize that maybe, just maybe, there are agent provocateurs amongst the mix of those riots as well that got that stuff started. I don't put anything past the Fed boys out there, the alphabet agencies. They have started coups in multiple countries around the world. What makes you think they're not going to do that kind of stuff here? Let's just clear your mind and think for a second, and stop being so full of hate and vitriol, and talk to your neighbor. Find out at least where they're coming from, and then at some point in time, you might be able to come to some kind of compromise.
Be a critical thinker.
That's it. That's all we're asking, to think for yourself. That's it.
Absolutely.
Very simple.
That's not hard.
No. So let's jump into this week's show, because I know we're chomping at the bits for that. I know Simon, yeah, we've had some time to sit here and let things fester and talk and discuss. We're being joined here today by Phillip Bane, and if you don't know the name, you're going to know it after tonight.
Oh, yeah,
but
you
you
are.
do probably recognize his work here in Franklin County. And I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself and kind of tell him where we all might know him from if we don't recognize the name. So, Phillip.
My name is Phillip Bane, and the project I've been working on in Rocky Mount since 2014 is the redevelopment of the Morris Hotel.
I was very fortunate to have a little tour there this afternoon. And it's a spectacular opportunity for downtown Rocky Mount, in my humble opinion, to get to the next level. When I hear that this project has been in progress for 8 years, I commend Philip's patience. And I'm going to be very polite about that, because that was a prime opportunity to drop my first F-bomb, and I'm not going to at the moment. I'm pretty disgusted to hear the tale. The project is sound. It brings downtown Rocky Mount into the next level. It's a boutique hotel. It offers so many opportunities that I am staggered that the town council, quite frankly, have been dragging their heels on this. And if this isn't fast-tracked, I hope that every council member and mayor and assistant and business manager and all the other monkeys that are involved in this project and, curtailing it or putting roadblocks up or being obstructionists, quite frankly, I hope they get voted out. And if we let this continue, I firmly believe that Philip here will sue the arse off these people, and that will be at taxpayer expense. And I don't blame him for doing it. So the sooner these people get the hell out of the way and stop this obstruction, which quite frankly I consider illegal, and criminal, the better off the taxpayer of Franklin County and Rocky Mount will be. You're going to hear a very sordid, despicable sequence of events that are going to unfold, and for no reason.
And let's make no mistake about it. I mean, we're going to sit here and we're going to ask questions. We're going to discuss things. We're going to drop names. And this isn't hearsay. This isn't gossip. This isn't barbershop talk. These are conversations that are backed up by Freedom of Information Act requests.
Legal documents.
They are legal documents. They are public documents. They can be obtained by anybody. So when you're listening to this conversation, we're going with the flow. And
Brace yourself.
Just know that you can go find these things. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that are affecting our community. Some of the prices that we're spending, some of the price tags that are on some of these things, some of the salaries. We got a lot going on here today. And I'm really excited that we can finally, this is the first time I've been able to do this on this show. This is why I did this show. So I guess to start off, we got to ask you, okay, Phillip, so you have it's the Morris Hotel. For anybody in Rocky Mount listening to this, it's right across the street from Angle Hardware, and it's across the street from the Whole Bean Coffee House. It used to be the Morris Furniture building, and it's being turned into a boutique hotel. So let's just start from the beginning right here. First off, you're a Yankee from Roanoke. So strike one.
You're a Virginia lad.
Strike one already, trying to come in here to this town and think that you can just up and start a business and help out the economy. But what was it that brought you to Rocky Mount and this? Give a little bit of history of yourself first, and then let's talk about why you decided to pick Rocky Mount.
Well, I actually was worked at the VA till 1998, and in 1998 I left the VA to turn around distressed companies, bankrupt companies, and I've done that for 24 years now. It'll actually be 25 in January of this year. actually came to Rocky Mount because there was a company that was about to go under. It's about to be shut down by the bank. And I had been acquiring companies and doing work for the banks in Florida. And so the opportunity came to take on the Morris Furniture Building to use it as warehouse space to liquidate assets for banks. And so that's why I actually acquired that in 2014.
Now, Philip, this just let me interrupt a little bit here because I'm having a flashback here. You're coming across maybe that people could perceive you as the Richard Gere character in Pretty Woman, the asset stripper, the evil, investment banker that's coming in. I'm going to dispel that rumor right now. You're not.
Well,
Simon's word is oak too, so just
I am exactly like Richard Gere, except I don't have the money, the looks, and the actresses changed.
Or Julia Roberts.
But Jessica, I don't have any of that. But other than that, we're like twins.
There you go. But I believe
I see a
you've
resemblance as well.
Oh, there's a resemblance there for sure. But I think your ethics behind what you're doing that you've described to us over the last few hours is so commendable, and I hope we're able to bring that out with your ethical approach to making. If you're going to leave something, leave it better than you found it.
Correct, and as I said, my business model has always been not to just strip the companies out. It was always to salvage the companies just as I did here and salvage as many jobs as you can and try to make it so that the businesses continue. There's absolutely no reason just to go in and gut a building and sell off the assets. It doesn't really benefit anyone.
So your projection really with this project that when it comes fully online, and this is just the tip of the iceberg with regards to business opportunity, how many jobs do you anticipate? And this is just one of Philip's many projects, but how many employees would you anticipate benefiting directly from this project coming online 100%?
Just on the restaurant and the boutique hotel and the venue center of just the Morris Hotel, there's going to approximately be about 40 to 50 jobs. I hope you're listening, Rocky Mount. I hope you're listening to that. The Curves building will also become a part of this development, and on the second floor of the Curves building will be corporate housing, and on the first floor of the Curves building is going to be a business incubator because Rocky Mount doesn't have a business incubator, and we really need to help.
Explain that slightly, because when you said business incubator, I was thinking, well, hang on, this sounds great. What does it bloody mean?
Basically, what a business incubator is, it gives people who want to start a company, but their resources are limited, the opportunity and the access to resources. So Curves will be turned into a business incubator. So if you want to come in and you want to start a business, it'll have everything in place. It'll have the computers, it'll have the phones, it'll have the receptionist, it'll have all the things you need to start out for a very low cost.
And we don't have one here in Franklin County at all at the moment.
No.
So you'd be an innovator.
Well,
don't be shy. Don't be shy.
I don't know about innovator. I'm actually taking it from other localities. Now, I will say that the church that is on Wirtz Road, they actually opened up in the church that looks like a balloon.
Yep.
I'm the double bubble.
Venture Center.
The double bubble?
Yeah, the double bubble. So they actually opened up and I had a conversation with them. They actually opened up a business incubator type facility. And in speaking to them, as soon as they opened, they had 100% occupancy.
Fantastic.
And so,
I mean, that's saying there that there's demand.
Correct. Because people, if you're just starting a company out, your resources, you may not have $12,000 to $2,000 to pay rent.
Yeah. I mean, capex and just funding alone.
Correct.
Is the biggest, I'd say, obstacle for anyone to launch an entrepreneurial venture.
Right. And the thing about it is, like, you always hear about these wildly successful. They're like, oh, we started in our garage. Let's help. In these candidate forums, they've always said, oh, we're trying to get business in. IBM is not coming here. All these big companies are not coming to Rocky Mount. We are not going to get an Olive Garden. Okay, let it go.
Yeah,
but
bury it.
We can keep our kids here if we say, hey, we're going to help you. You want to start a business. You want to be successful. We are going to help you. We're not going to be an impediment to you. And that's the thing. What I think is ironic, it's actually the purpose of government to do this business incubator. Franklin County should have built a business incubator.
That's a very subtle hint, Town Council.
Correct. I mean, the thing about it is, two of the things that I actually approached the town of Rocky Mount about was a business incubator and a manufacturing incubator, because that's what I plan to do next. I plan to do a manufacturing incubator where the equipment is there. If you have an idea to manufacture something here, you will have access to the equipment so that you can do your prototypes. What did we run into with COVID? The big thing, everything's made in China. Well, why is everything made in China? Because we don't just offer just a little bit of assistance to people and say, let us help you get your company started here. That's where the high-paying job is. We're getting a Starbucks. That's fantastic. But guess what? Baristas make $15 an hour. Manufacturing people make $35, $40 an hour. That's what we need.
Well, I had this thought process at the beginning of COVID. In fact, way before COVID, because I saw what was happening with industry. I saw what was happening with industry way before everything got exported to China. This started, decades ago. It was down to corporate greed and all that good stuff. But it became pretty apparent that there was an opportunity, and I saw it as soon as COVID struck. Even before then, quite frankly, because the table had to turn, that manufacturing industry had to come back, whether that was in the form of furniture manufacturing coming back to the Carolinas and Virginia, or pharmaceutical, which appeared to be far more important at the time, with antibiotics and goodness knows what else, even though India was a big producer of antibiotics at the time. But then they got caught up in their own trap, and antibiotics was delivered to their population, and export became a bit of an issue. So to me, having these business parks was a great opportunity to somehow get that manufacturing with certain industries, particularly the pharmaceutical industry. Now we're talking about fertilizers. We're talking about, it is so diverse, it blows my mind. So having business centers that can bring manufacturing back to the US is just inherently the right thing to do.
And
because we're so exposed.
And inspire people here locally to go out there and give it a whirl. Like, well, hey, take advantage of what you got. If you got a manufacturing incubator around here where you can go and use those tools, use that space.
These are high-paying jobs.
Do it. Yes.
These are high-paying jobs. This isn't being the guy pulling a bloody Starbucks out and handing it to you that was a double frappe, latte, what the hell ever. Bless you, Starbucks, but that's not how I burn. We've got to bring these high-paying jobs back to manufacturing centres that they can sustain through corporate greed. And there's the problem, because it's corporate greed that forced them outside of the boundaries of the US. And we've been exposed so horribly, really, to... And all I've got to look at now is the Nord Stream 2, Nord Stream 1 pipelines, and Germany, and their reliance on 40% of their energy infrastructure is from Russia. Well, we know who blew it up. I'm not, figure it out yourself. I'm not even going to mention who I think blew it up. If you haven't figured it out, you're a moron. I was there laying that pipeline in the Baltic for a year, and doing Nord Stream 2 while sitting on top of a leaking Russian nuclear submarine. So, that really helped my health impacts. But it was part of an infrastructure package that gave reliance way too much to Russia. And the European energy infrastructure now is suffering with dire consequences this winter.
It's going to be a long
It's going to be a long, cold winter. Absolutely. Yes. And, I'm not going to swing around and say, oh, but Trump said this. Yes, he did say it, but it was blatantly obvious that having that reliance was going to be detrimental, really, to their long-term energy needs. So what we did, and I'm going to blame Walmart, really, as the leader in this, was push all that infrastructure and industrial energy offshore. Now, offshore, by that I mean China, Taiwan, India, Bangladesh.
Even Mexico.
And when you do that, you're changing your industrial dynamic. And there are consequences for that. And trust me, Germany is about to see it. So what you're saying, Philip, about having business opportunities is having wide enough eyes and not being blinkered and being able to react to them, I think, in a fairly swift manner to fill the gap. We know that we're exposed to, I think we're exposed horribly to international trade at the moment. And I think we're going to see that over the next 18 months. And if we don't do something about it fairly radically, I think the impact is going to be felt in every household in the country.
Well, and the problem that we have lost our abilities as well. I mean, think about it. Where were we at the end of World War II? I mean, we had a war machine, and we were at the top of the food chain, and now we've actually kind of pushed all that out. And the next generation is having to take service jobs. Service jobs don't pay as well.
Nope. There goes your mega mansion.
Yeah, right. You've got to produce something. And all of our, we're letting our food production go, all these things. And the thing about it is, once again, it comes down to government is supposed to be serving us. And it's gotten switched. We are now at the service.
Perversely.
We are at the service of the government. And the government can do so many things just in Franklin County. And we can't change the world, so you just have to work in the neighborhood that you're in.
But this is where we can make
correct
an impact.
We can. And the thing about it is, it's the interesting thing about it is we just need to start making changes and start providing the opportunities here. If we don't, there's going to be a mass exodus, just like it's going to continue. If you have no place to work or live, people do not stay there. And that's what I've heard time and again from people they're talking about their kids. Their kids are gone. The kids won't come back. What are we going to do? Well, we've got to start saying, okay, we've got to solve the problem. One of the issues I have is people, when they vote for someone, they're like, oh, he's cute, or, especially at the local level.
He's connected. He's a lawyer.
He caught he got the football back in 1942, and it's just, but is he qualified? Funny story from someone I was speaking to, and I love talking to voters. I think it's very interesting if they open up and they start talking to you, and I think they drop all of their barriers and they start talking to you. A woman I was speaking to, she said to me, she goes, Rocky Mount, it's a tailspin. We've got to make so much changes. We need to do so much, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this woman was probably in her 70s. And she said, but you know what? She said, town council is doing the best they can. And I said, ma'am, that's a nice sentiment. I said, but if you go and you're going to have brain surgery, do you want a qualified brain surgeon or a janitor that's going to do the best he can. And I said, that's kind of where we are. We've got people on town council that have been there forever. They've been out of the workforce forever.
30 plus years.
Yeah.
All right. This does equate, because we're dealing with innovation here, and we're not seeing it with someone who's been in a seat or within this system with 30 years of so-called experience. That if you have to look at it and then be judged by that experience, one has to say it's an epic fail.
Correct.
Because all you've got to do is look around you and say, well, we've kind of reacted to, market pressures. No, you haven't.
No, and the thing about it is, it's like our current mayor. He said he's most proud of the fact that the farmers market has been a success. Farmers market is great. It's a quality of life thing. Just like the speakers on the polls is a quality of life. But you don't put wrapping paper around an empty box.
That's a good analogy.
So we are at a point where, we got our cart before our horse. Let's have murals on the building, but they're vacant buildings. Let's have speakers where there's no pedestrians. Let's expand the farmers market where we're only keeping it open 3 months out of the year. If my child goes, well, Dad, why should I stay? Oh, we've got a farmers market and some speakers.
Yep.
That's not going to get people to stay. It's not going to entice.
That's what they call putting lipstick on a pig, if I'm not mistaken.
That's actually a pretty polite way of saying that,
right,
Billy. I've got several analogies that I'm not going to mention just yet, but the lipstick on the pig we'll stick with.
We've got a little bit more liquor to go before we start reaching those more abrasive comments, but we'll probably get there.
And the thing about it is, the things that are going to bring businesses here, they don't have the skill set to even know. Case in point, Martinsville has a high-speed internet that they got through the entire town that businesses can then link into, and they waive the fee. Martinsville got it under a grant. Have we applied for that? No. There was millions of dollars available under the Industrial Revitalization Fund. Did we apply for that? No, we didn't.
Why not? I mean, why are we not taking advantage of this?
The problem that we're running into is, if you go down to the town administration building, and you start, I actually did a Freedom of Information Act.
I've seen several that are rather disturbing.
I did a Freedom of Information Act, and I asked for the qualifications for Robert Woods, Mark Moore, and Jessica Heckman.
Okay, what are their positions in this town so people can understand this? Robert Moore is the town manager.
Robert
Woods.
Robert Woods is the
not the football player, by the way.
He is the town manager. Mark Moore is the assistant town manager, and Jessica Heckman is the planning administrator.
All righty. So for reference, Robert Moore, currently for Rocky Mount residents. Robert Woods. Why do I keep saying Moore? I've been drinking. All right. He commands $150,000 a year. The assistant town manager.
Those are W-2 wages. That is not his entire compensation package. His compensation package for the town manager is approximately $200,000 a year.
And in his contract right here that I have in front of me, it also, and let me just read this. And after I read this, I want you to go into detail and explain what this means to people. And I've got the entire contract here. It's about 8 pages. I'm probably going to upload it to the page if any of y'all want to read it.
I'd recommend it.
This specific section right here I'm going to read. And it's a section, for the love of God, I don't know Greek, IV, whatever that is.
4.
Okay.
There you go.
I needed my wife for that one. Okay. The town agrees to pay the manager for his services for the period of employment beginning May 1st, 2021 at the rate of $140,000. What government employee, first off, needs $140,000 if you're not the president? Anyway, I digress. Annually, payable in installments at the same time as other employees of the town. Thereafter, unless the town council indicates otherwise, pay adjustments shall be governed by the same pay increase conditions as all other town employees. This agreement must be automatically amended to reflect any salary adjustments that are provided or required by the town's compensation policies. the town agrees to increase the compensation each year by at least the average across the board increase, step cost of living, granted to other employees of the town. So basically, as you said earlier, that just means the more money he spends, the more money he makes.
We have an assistant town manager. Most localities do not have an assistant town manager for a town of this size. We have larger localities, and they just have a town manager. They don't have an assistant town manager.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the Board of Supervisors and Franklin County has a business manager within the county. So we've almost got a doubling up of, and I'm sure those salaries are comparable, with not just the Rocky Mount business manager, town manager, whatever you want to call him, and the Franklin County business manager, and they command these salaries. And I'm really struggling with their achievements, and I just don't know where we're going with this, because we've lost control.
Well, at the end of the day, the bottom line is this. I think the average family income in Rocky Mount is a low income
area.
Yeah, we're looking at it right here. We've got the average income, and there's a comparison chart here. And for reference, for anybody listening, the towns that are comparable are Bedford, Buena Vista, Marion, Martinsville, which is a city at the moment, Vinton, and Wytheville. Now, Rocky Mount has the lowest population. Seems the average income is $23,649, which is about midway. The average age is about 46, which is the oldest. We're one of the smallest, about midway, about halfway as far as area is concerned. 63 paid employees, and once again, the town manager $150,000 according to this one, which isn't accurate, and $115,000 for the assistant. Whereas, let's see. Bedford and Buena Vista have no assistant, and the rest are anywhere between $5,000 and about $25,000 less.
So, if you were to knock on the door of the average taxpayer in Rocky Mount, who has a family income of $23,000 to $25,000, and you ask them, do you think that the town manager deserves 8 years of your salary? How many of them do you think is going to say, count me in?
Absolutely none of them, I would hope. But the exposure, these take FOIA requests to bring this to light. And I think we've got a far deeper problem with how town councils and Franklin County business is being governed and run. And I think through the course of this show, we're going to end up coming out with a few very disturbing
realizations.
Yeah, it's going to be a reality check that quite frankly, if we don't stop this, we're going to be in big problems, because the tax base does not command this level of funding. And we're not getting value for money. In fact, it goes way deeper than that, because when you consider how Phillip here, and there's no other way of describing this. And I only met Phillip today, so it's not as though we're old school buddies. We're not members of the same golf club, and any of that crap. We're not. We got the same boat dock at Smith Mountain Lake, or God knows what else. I've only met Phillip today, but it's quite clear from what I've been hearing and some of the documentation that I've witnessed to, that he's been persecuted on a personal level, not just from a number of council members, but from the mayor himself. And I'm going to call the dude out, and I call people out, and that's I'm not scared to do it, because I don't give a shit.
And bureaucrats as well, unelected officials as well. Have impeded this.
Well, that's the more cynical of all of them. But these guys that, we have accessible information about their salaries. We have accessible information about what they're trying to persecute, what lawsuits they're trying to take against Phillip's endeavours in getting this boutique hotel, which is probably one of the better things that Rocky Mount is going to see in the short-term future. It's not just a boutique hotel. You know, we think of the spin-off business that's going to come from this, whether it's the farmers market supplying some of the restaurants there, the local breweries supplying the beer there. These aren't just 50 or 60 or 40 to 60 employees. The spin-off from this is significant, and it rejuvenates what really is and has been a dying downtown Rocky Mount. And he's had roadblocks put in his way by these people, and you know, I hope he sues their arse off.
Unwarranted.
Oh, it's more than unwarranted. This is malicious, and quite frankly, you know, these people don't deserve to be in office.
Well,
they're being paid $150,000 a year to deal with this shit and block something that is going to really be to the benefit, not just of Rocky Mount but the local area. You've got to be kidding me. You know, these people need to be held accountable. And how we do this isn't just by voting. They shouldn't be allowed, even when they get in office, they should not be allowed to behave in this fashion. Trivial lawsuits are trivial lawsuits. But guess what? The taxpayer ends up getting sued, and we end up paying as the taxpayer, and rightly so. So this shit's got to stop.
Yeah, I'm pretty fed up with paying for government mistakes. I'm ineptness. I'm tired of paying lawsuits when a cop decides to go out there and beat somebody up without any kind of provocation. You know what I mean? Like I'm tired of all this kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be this difficult. And when we get into all this kind of stuff, you know, and you speak about the roadblocks and stuff. So let's start from the beginning. So Phillip, when you told me earlier, this has been an 8-year endeavor. You didn't even tell me that yesterday because, like Simon, I just met Phillip yesterday. I sent him a text message through Facebook about 3 weeks ago and said, hey, you know, I know you're the proprietor of the hotel down there. I'd like to get you on the show, you know, air your grievances or whatever. And I would not have blamed him at all if he thought, immediate thought was more gotcha journalism. These guys are going to come in here.
I've got a point on that later.
But, I sent another message as, hey, just to reassure you, I hate the government. Listen to some of our shows. You'll understand this. Please come on. He got back to me. I met him yesterday, took the tour, the same tour you took today. So this is all for the benefit of the town as far as I'm concerned. And when he told me earlier today that 8 years he's been dealing with this nonsense.
How long has the building been unoccupied?
Probably.
I came into Rocky Mount in 2014, and I'd heard it'd been vacant 15 to 20 years.
And where are we now? So it's still unoccupied, you dumbasses.
So if you were to go by there today and get the tour like we did, like I said, we're going to lay it out for you. So you walk in the front entrance. There's a nice little foyer area, big enough to put a Christmas tree, things to that nature. There's going to be a farm-to-table store immediately to your left as you walk in, which is a phenomenal idea. To the right, a full-service restaurant, breakfast, lunch, and then, as you said, dinner that's going to change on different nights with catering services. You've got it's not hotel rooms, it's suites. You know, on the levels above that, you've got 2 rooftop areas, decks to enjoy cigars.
It's not Holiday Inn.
Yeah, you've got
it's
a
not Comfort
area.
Suites. This is a boutique hotel. This is something that we have been after, I would say, ad infinitum. These are the sort of things that we want. This is private. It's custom. It's chic. You know, how many more adjectives can I throw at this to say this is a damn good idea?
Yes.
Well, of course, you all also forgot the best part, which is the tasting room, which is focused on Virginia products. If the town ever does sell me the parcel of land I've been trying to get since 2014.
Okay, let's talk about this parcel because Simon and I were able to observe this today.
What a joke.
And as we observed it, you go into the tasting room, which, if you're familiar with Franklin County, it's on the back side of the hotel. There's a little alleyway right there that has been cut off that would take you down behind the library if there weren't barriers in place.
It's the blocks off library access that used to be.
It was vacated 21 years ago when they built the library, and they can never reopen that piece of dirt.
No, and it's dirt and busted up asphalt
It's
right
2,000
there.
square feet of land that the town cannot use. I've been before town council 8 times to ask them to sell me the property. They can't do anything with it, but they're not going to allow anyone else to do anything either. And
How perverse is that?
Which makes absolutely no sense at all.
Which
Like I said,
is-
we laid our eyes on it. It's busted up concrete and dirt.
Well, and what was actually interesting at the last
asphalt, I'm sorry.
at the last candidate forum, they were talking about how they can't get developers,
No shit.
and because they need developers to build housing and so forth. And I got up and I shared some of my experiences, and I said to at that candidate forum, and I said, but after 8 years and 8 times before town council has finally agreed to sell me this 2,000 square feet of dirt that they can't use. I sat down. Mayor Steve Angles got up and he goes, I'd like to clarify. We haven't agreed to sell Mr. Bane anything. We've agreed to have a conversation with him and put it up before a public forum, and sat back down. And after he sat back down, I said, well, maybe the 9th time before town council will be the charmer. But the question is, why did he feel so that he had to get up and make that statement? Because all that did, it really just made the town of Rocky Mount look like a petty, juvenile...
Trivial.
Yes.
Personal.
Right.
You, and I'm talking to you, the council members. I'm talking to you, Steve Angle. You are a facilitator, right? We pay you. You have been in public office
No,
for 30...
Let's clarify. We do not pay them. Our money is taken without our consent to
okay.
pay their salaries. Let's clarify.
We'll clarify that. I will accept that. Yes, we are robbed of our tax dollars for you to hold a personal grudge, which is what it appears to be. And you've been in public office, and quite frankly, your job description is to be a facilitator for the benefit of this town, of this community, and quite frankly, you have failed epically in this regard. You have to go. I would, you know what? The best thing that we can do here, and I'm looking at a number of FOIA requests that show multiple people being paid after their resignation from the county coffers. Now, I would suggest, and I would welcome you to make that same resignation and probably get that same amount of revenue and income whilst you are no longer doing your job, because quite frankly, that would benefit us.
Well, and the biggest problem I have this whole situation is Steve Angle has never spoken to me.
Never done a tour.
Never gone on a tour. He walks by my building twice a day, sometimes twice a day, and has never taken the time to actually come into my building.
That's disgraceful.
The biggest insult you can have to someone is telling them they're not even worth the trouble to come through the building. But on the flip side, town council hasn't either. When they voted to file their lawsuit, most of the town council people had no idea what they were voting for.
Let's talk about the lawsuit. What did that lawsuit entail?
So there was actually, according to the town, there was 2 zoning violations according to the town. One was on the sidewalk, and one was the fact that the building was too tall. On the first, the building being too tall, the town took a zoning ordinance that was passed in 2012, and which was written for new construction, and they filed a zoning violation against my building, which had been built 90 years prior. Because there are no zoning codes in the town of Rocky Mount that apply to existing buildings, such as mine. The zoning code that they applied stated that my building could not be taller than 2 stories tall with a height of 45 feet.
Of a building that was already 100 years old.
On a building that was already 100 years old.
And any common sense, anybody that has any kind of intimate ideas of how government works and how zoning works, there are such things called as grandfather clauses.
That is correct. The town of Rocky Mount, though, their position is once you get a building permit, your grandfathered position no longer applies, which is not correct.
That makes absolutely no sense anyway.
That is correct. So they filed a lawsuit. Well, first of all, they filed a zoning violation, and then I went before the Board of Zoning Appeals. Now, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the people who are on that board are recommended by town council.
Not elected.
They're not elected, and then they have to be approved by a circuit court judge. The Board of Zoning Appeals, upon hearing my variance request, because I had no choice, even though the zoning ordinance did not apply, the way the law is written, once the zoning administrator makes a decision that it is a zoning violation, your only choice is to get a variance. After the variance, then you can go to court. I went before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and unanimously, they gave me the variance because, once again, prior to construction, the building was 57 feet tall, which was the height of the chimney, and the building was 4-story. The zoning ordinance that they were referring to stated I had to be 2 stories and 45 feet. My building was taller than, the 2 stories. It was taller than the 45 feet. So once that occurred, then the town manager went before town council in a closed-door meeting, and they convinced the majority, and we don't know who voted for it, but I had heard that it was 100%.
Closed door shit yet again.
We're going to get into that when he's done with this story, by the way.
That they voted to file a lawsuit against me, which they did.
Facilitators.
So after they filed, what was actually interesting is after they filed the lawsuit, then of course, then they started trying to collect evidence to support their position. So 2 months after they filed the lawsuit, they actually retained an
Closing
engineering
the gate
firm.
after the horse is bolted, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Just want to get that one right clear.
They hired an engineering firm, and we don't know how much it cost because we have been FOIAing a lot of the records, but they've been putting up roadblocks to dispute my structural engineer. And then during the same time, they filed another zoning violation. I had to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals because they said the sidewalk that I had built also is a zoning violation.
Do they have qualified engineers on staff?
They do not.
Ooh. And your engineer is qualified.
He's been done this for 40 years.
I hope everybody's listening.
So I think it's best to kind of go back at the timeline of the events that have transpired. I'll just give a quick blurb of things that have occurred, and then I'll start giving dates of over the last 8 years. Over the last 8 years, the town has...
And pay attention, people. This is important right here. This is what we're here for. Listen to these.
Yeah, this is the meat on the bone here.
So what was actually interesting is when I was actually cleaning up the building, even before I got started, we broke some window panes out. This was during the pandemic. And the town of Rocky Mount sent me a letter stating that I was causing a blight upon the downtown Rocky Mount.
No, a blight, which means pretty much an eyesore for anybody that doesn't know. And
Wankers.
And downtown Rocky Mount, 50% is an eyesore right now for vacated buildings. So,
The politically correct term you're looking for is deferred maintenance. So,
for 20 years.
Well, we're not politically correct.
No shit. So where was the previous landlord that didn't get hit for 20 years of deferred maintenance?
So
idiots.
So this was during the pandemic, and I had some broken glass, and we couldn't get glass. That was when the pandemic first hit, and I actually paid to ship in panes of glass from California to get that in. Instead of being helpful and working with me, they filed a zoning violation, and it goes before town council, and James Irving said, he's trying to get glass, and he has made progress, but all of it hasn't shipped in. Well, the town of Rocky Mount wanted to declare my building a blight, and then, of course, that would have given them the option to then try to take my building by eminent domain, which...
Eminent domain, which means they essentially steal your property from you.
That is correct.
And don't pay you a damn thing for it.
And, of course,
for public use. Actually, they cannot do that.
Well, they could not. It was the threat. Like I said, I've been through an eminent...
It's a hollow threat.
It's a hollow threat. But
what a crock of shit.
And so then of course, the next month... They then dismissed once I came back and said,
once they got legal advice.
Right.
Really.
So it really, but it was an exercise in futility. I mean, and all it did, it just kind of
it soured the well.
Correct. Well, yes, and unfortunately, so I had actually on the sidewalk on the side. That was the first issue, and we had to submit a site plan. I had an engineer submit a site plan. Town of Rocky Mount approved that site plan. I still have the approval stamped on my plans. We built to those specs. Well, after we built to those specs, the town came back and said, nope, sorry, that doesn't meet, it's a zoning violation.
Let's be very clear. You had a signed, stamped approval.
That is correct.
Okay, I just want everyone to be very clear about that.
So after they said it didn't meet the specs, I had my engineer write a letter, and he actually sent them a letter on 9/17 of 21 stating, I've reviewed the site plan that you approved. I've reviewed the project. I've looked at the job site. He has met all the requirements, and it is per specs. It is built according to your site plan. Unfortunately, the town planner looked at it, and even though he's an engineer of 40 years, it had his professional seal. She rejected his findings. So that then led.
What are her qualifications, by the way?
I do not know. I actually did a FOIA request for Robert Woods, Mark Moore, and Jessica Heckmans to find out what their qualifications were, and I was told that the short version was I was told that they don't have to be qualified, and they don't have to tell me what.
With engineered drawings, they don't have to be qualified. Let's be very clear about that. With engineered drawings, they don't have to be qualified to reject an engineered drawing plan from a 40-year experienced qualified engineer. Just so we're clear.
Who's licensed by the state of Virginia.
Roger that.
So that was kind of started the snowball. Then misfortune occurred on December the 20th of 2021 when my architect contracted and died from COVID. Once my architect died, it went downhill from there. Once the town learned of my death of my architect on January 14th of 2022, right after Christmas, they decided to go do a visual inspection on my property. And that was when they sent me a zoning violation.
Was this an internal or an external inspection of the property?
I don't know. I don't know who actually did it. It was just in the letter it said we decided to do a visual inspection. I'm not really sure what that means.
Do you think they had access? Because you need keys to have access, right?
Well, no, they were looking at the sidewalk and the outside.
Just the sidewalk. Okay, so that's an external. Okay.
Right. No one from the town has given me the courtesy of taking a tour of my building. No one from town council has given me the courtesy of coming down and touring my building.
That's not really professional. I'm being polite for the first time.
Interestingly enough, and there was another violation that they were actually stating was that my building was too tall. But what I thought was ironic is I did a Freedom of Information request, and they knew that it was not a zoning violation. On January 31st of 2022, Robert Woods, who's the town manager, he sent an email to Franklin County in which he states, quote, the building height was at or above the allowed height before the project began. Well, if the building height was at or above,
It's been there since 1920.
that's called grandfathered. So it doesn't really. It's not a zoning issue.
It's a malicious issue, is what it is. Sorry, I'm the first one to say that. I don't care.
So on February 11th, 2022, the town sends a letter claiming that there are zoning violations. The two violations were the sidewalk and the height of the building. The town had been supplied with a sealed letter from my engineer on 9/17, so they knew that the sidewalk wasn't an issue. And then the zoning ordinance that they were trying to apply had to do with new construction and not existing buildings. So neither one of the two, there was never a zoning violation. On March 3rd, I did a Freedom of Information request, and I got the emails between Rocky Mount and Franklin County, which are 72 pages of emails where the town is just hammering Franklin County to shut the project down.
On what basis? I'm intrigued as to what basis they're looking to shut it down.
Everything. They're like, the building's not structurally sound. The building's going to imminent collapse. I mean, it was just all this. It was just baseless allegations.
So again, more malicious.
It was just basic allegations that no one has. Once again, the issue is Rocky Mount, the town, has nothing to do with the building. That falls under the jurisdiction of Franklin County. I don't make the rules up. That's the way they decide to divvy it up. So once the town signed off on my site plan, they should have had no interaction whatsoever with Franklin County. But instead, they kept interjecting themselves. And then when Franklin County would not shut the project down because there was no building code violations, then they created these fictitious zoning violations so that the Franklin County then said, well, you've got zoning violations with the town, therefore we have to shut the project down because you have to correct these zoning violations. And that was actually in the email from the town on the stop work order. It says zoning violations are time sensitive. So,
well, let's stop for one quick second here, because I'm going to bring in some comments from our Facebook feed, because you talk about the sidewalk right here. And, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give your name since you publicly commented right here with this just absurd nonsense. Donna Furrow Howdenbach. She said, are you a building engineer? Blah, blah. How about the changes to the sidewalk that have made the sidewalk impassable by those who are handicapped? Now, I walked on that sidewalk earlier, and I'm curious as to how that sidewalk in front of the hotel that this chick who, not chick, I'm sorry, that has a disinformation, deadly vaccine saves lives thing on her profile. Explain to people how that your sidewalk is impassable to handicapped people.
Okay, so the sidewalk is what the sidewalk is. Okay, if you measure the sidewalk from the side of my building all the way out to the street, it is 6 foot and 4 inches wide. Because of that, the way the America with Disability Act regulation reads, existing buildings have a different code than new construction. If you have new construction, you have to go to this code.
But the code in this respect, right, is an irrelevance, because we're really talking about someone that considers, a member of the general public, considers the sidewalk to be impassable. I saw a
ramp
profile for the curb
to
cross the road. I saw a profile, actually 2 profiles that were reduced for wheelchair access. So if they're talking about strict code, they may have a point. But when they're talking about access on the pavement, unless you're driving a 6 foot 5 inch wide fucking wheelchair,
there's the first half.
Then you've got. Sorry, that came out. I'm just like, what are you people thinking?
Well,
when you put these arguments up, and then you think that you're not going to be held accountable.
Well, it sounds like old Donna's got some skin in the game here because nobody else in their
I
right
wonder
mind,
who she's related to.
nobody in that right mind would look at that sidewalk and say, well, it's not handicap passable or accessible.
Okay, so here, okay, so
How do I get one out?
Hey, you made the comment, Donna, so.
So here's and I don't believe she's talking about the front. I believe she's talking about the steps I put in on the side. I don't think she's talking about the front of the building. I
Well,
think
she specifically said the sidewalk.
So, well, there's a sidewalk on the side. So
Okay.
I believe that she's talking to that. Okay. What she doesn't understand is that not only that sidewalk does not have to comply with that ADA, but it does anyway. And here's why. The sidewalk is 6 foot 4 inches wide. Under the American with Disability Act, if you have to prioritize, the number one priority is you must have a handicap accessible to your building.
Got it.
So we have to come out from the building. We can't push the building over, and we can't extend the sidewalk. So if we come out 36 inches, we've got 30. That's 3 feet. We have that. Now the next thing is, as I said, the sidewalk is 6 foot 4 inches wide. We then have a handrail on there, which I got a micro handrail, so it got it down to 4 inches, which leaves a 36-inch passage on so that there is 36 inches on both sides. There's been a lot of misinformation from the town that it's not, but it is. It meets ADA requirement. I have an engineer stamp that says it meets ADA requirement. But the problem that you run into is just like with the town. They've not come down there and looked. If this woman wants to come down and text me, I will pull a tape measure out and I will show her how we do meet ADA requirements. The average wheelchair, even for a bariatric, which is the politically correct term for large wheelchairs.
Extremely obese individual, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
I mean, most wheelchairs are not going to be wider than 24 inches. And
if you've got 3 feet on the beam, let me tell you, being disabled is not really your problem.
Well,
but I'll leave that one to me.
You've got and there's a woman that actually that you've seen her in a power chair across the street. She comes up and down that sidewalk all the time and has no issue whatsoever. So I think people are hearing things, but they're not coming down and
well, they're getting half a story, and I'm going to come on to that
right
in a little bit with what's been going on with the local press. Please remind me. This is important.
But at the end of the day, the bottom line is this: I'm at the building. I'm at the building almost every day. I have no problem whatsoever someone coming down and saying, "Can you explain this to me?" I will be more than happy to talk to anyone who wants to have a conversation with me. Somebody wants to come down, look at the building. I will be more than. I want the community to take ownership of the building. I think it has so much potential and can do so much for this community.
It's an asset to the community.
It is.
For goodness sake.
It very much is an asset. And so, but I want them to understand, I'm not interested in half-truth. If I'm in the wrong, I will be more than happy during. It's very easy to fix something if you're in the wrong during construction.
During construction is
exactly
the key.
right. But don't give me an approved site plan and then go, "Oh, you've built that. Here, let's rip it out."
Don't ask me to take 2 floors off a building that's grandfathered as 4 floors.
That is correct.
And start playing those games.
We can accomplish more working together than being adversarial.
Be facilitators.
So you hear that, Donna? Come on down, and he will show you how it's handicap accessible, because God knows there's no way in the world in this day and age that would ever fly if it really wasn't. So come on down, and if you're going to comment online, just, hey.
Let's do it from an educated perspective.
Exactly. So let's get back to the timeline. The handicap sidewalk, that's where we left off.
Okay, so because of that, then on March 3rd, 2022, all of the zoning violations by the town, the county issued a stop work order, which really wasn't that big of a deal because with a lawsuit pending about whether I'm going to have to take 2 floors off you're not going to be doing construction anyway.
Why would you?
Right. So what was actually interesting, and then on 322, the Planning and Zoning Administrator files a report with the Board of Zoning Appeals. She states that I'm in violation of Article 29-8-1, which was passed in 2012. And 29-8-1 says building may not exceed 2 stories in height with a maximum height of 45 feet. That has to do with new construction.
Yep.
Because, had they meant it had they meant it to apply to existing buildings, they would have had to put buildings may not exceed 2 stories or a height of 45 feet. But it was all about new construction. And, of course, even then they would
So they've applied the wrong code to the wrong building yet again.
Well, the thing about it is there is no we've reviewed the entire zoning code. There is nothing in the zoning code for buildings that are 4 stories tall in Rocky Mount. There are very few skyscrapers in Rocky Mount. I think I have the tallest building in Rocky Mount, and by far. So I think I'm the only 4-story. Carilion may have a 4-story building, but I don't know. But anyway,
there's a few that are probably getting close to that.
There's a lot of 3-story.
Having been up on the roof, I'm looking at the skyline, and yes, you're probably the most prominent building,
right?
But there's certainly buildings over 2 stories.
Correct. That is
so.
correct.
If you're going to apply that brush.
Right.
Make it a broad one.
That's exactly right. And what becomes kind of silly once again, they passed this zoning regulation in 2012 that the buildings had to be 2 stories. So let's just play this out. Let's just assume I cut 2 stories off my building. What about if they applied a law in 2018 and says I can only be 1 story? Am I supposed to then cut 1 story off?
Cut it off?
Yeah. I mean, it becomes just it's
asinine.
Yeah, it's very, very much.
Well, let's ask the question too. Why in the world would you ever need to pass a zoning ordinance like that anyway?
To be retrospective? Not heard of.
Can
someone please tell me?
It's my understanding that from the story I was told in 2012 they passed the ordinance because they didn't have fire trucks that could go above that.
Okay,
but we do have fire trucks now that do, so it's really not applicable.
So that's irrelevant.
Okay, well let's just pull back from that for a second. Do they have fire trucks in Chicago, L.A., or New York that can reach the top of the skyscrapers there?
Oh, of course,
the very top.
Not like 30 or 40 stories. No.
Okay, exactly. So what are we talking about here? Whether if you can't reach 40 or 50 stories from a fire truck in New York, why does it matter if you can reach 3 or 4 stories in a small town? Like that seems like such an inconsequential, ridiculous, and not to mention that you could also bring a fire truck to the back side of the building. And it's already 15 feet above the lower side as well. So I mean, this is trivial.
It is a trivial, and the thing about it is what people don't understand is, in doing this building, you have to bring this building up to today's standards. We have sprinklers, we have fire systems, we have fire suppression. So we have.
Well, we've seen the level of construction inside the building that you have mitigated beyond code.
Correct.
The fire code that currently exists. So you've actually gone way beyond that. So what is the problem? And the problem is personal persecution. It's malicious, and it's malicious persecution. That's all I can put it down to.
Well, at the end of the day, when we were getting at the end of our project, had we continued on, we would have been finished. Once this project is up and running, then they quote unquote have lost. And that's what it's been. It has been
But this isn't a winner-loser game. As a facilitator, you're looking to make everybody win. Right? As a facilitator, which is what these people should be doing, you want everyone to succeed. What on earth is going on here? We've got to ask the calibre of the people that we have as councillors and city or town mayors that allow this behaviour to continue. This blows my mind. There was a beep in there, and you may not or may have caught it.
Well, you're exactly right, but the problem is that it's as I said, for we've got a mayor that has been there for 16 years. He was on town council for 16 years, and
32 years.
And at the end of the day,
Move aside, mate.
You've got and the thing about it is you have a town council that is not using they're not fulfilling their responsibilities of oversight. You've got a town manager.
There is no oversight.
There is no oversight. But here's the question. Why would Steve Angle be willing to sign an employment contract with Robert Woods? And you've seen the employment contract. It's got and whose name signed it? Steve Angle.
Got it right here.
Why would he be willing to take and pay someone twice what everybody else is paying? The bottom line is this: I control your income. I control you. Robert Woods is not going to go to another 4,900 person town and get a compensation package of $200,000. So guess what? He's going to do whatever he is instructed to do.
Absolutely.
Because once again,
no oversight.
No oversight. And unfortunately, you've got 6 people on town council that are not exercising their oversight. If you go to a town council meeting, they are done in 30 minutes. Nobody asks any questions. It is just everything is lockstep. Nobody
closed door meetings.
Well, no, just even in the public meetings. I don't know what goes on in the closed door meetings.
That's the one we need to worry about.
Yeah, but on the public meetings, everybody's in lockstep. It's like all in favor, aye, and no nays, no nothing. So all these things are going on behind the scenes. And as I said before, we're letting these people order our dinner, but we're getting stuck with a check. So once again, why would a town manager who's supposed to be representing the best interest of the 4,900 people that voted, or 4,900 people who are residents, why is he willing to give a town manager 8 years' salary of the average family unless the town manager is going to do pretty much whatever?
There's a couple of words for that, and they're strong words, and I hope they heed them very, very carefully. One of them is racketeering. And the other one is embezzlement. Now, both, I believe, have historical significance in jail time. So this is what's going on here. Now, as a private resident, I can swing round and just say, I don't give a shit. This is what I'm going to accuse you of. There's embezzlement going on. There's racketeering going on. There's nepotism going on. You know it. And the taxpayer of this fine
extortion
town,
too.
Extortion.
They're extorting the taxpayer dollars because every time they bring in an engineer, every time they file a lawsuit, God knows how much they're paying those attorneys, those engineers to come in here and just delay the processes. So it's way beyond just the surface level.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's criminal what is going on. And if we don't wake up to this, you're going to receive much of the same. And you're going to end up accepting mediocrity, and way worse. Do you want to accept that as a resident of this fine town that happens to be the county seat of this fine county? And quite frankly, I'm not. Now you need to stand up and make it bloody count. Because if you're not prepared to get these buggers out of positions that they've held and abused for over 30 years, you're going to get much of the same. And then when you come griping, saying that we don't have the same opportunities as Northern Virginia, well, guess what? I can't fucking imagine why. So get off your arses and sort this problem out, because they've got to go. You cannot sustain this and expect something different.
Oh, it's a definition of insanity. It's repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
I knew you were going to come in with that, Billy. Good job, mate.
Well, back to my timeline.
Yeah, let's get back to the timeline. There's just so much here to dissect.
After they filed this zoning ordinance that didn't apply and said my sidewalk, which they had approved, on April 7th, I had to go before the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals. And, of course, that's the first step. And the Board of Zoning Appeals unanimously approved on the Too Tall building. They approved my variance. And on the sidewalk, they reversed the town's decision because they're like, you can't give this guy a site plan approved and then say, sorry, just joking.
And how much taxpayer money was wasted on that, along with your own income for an attorney and your architect fees and engineer's fees?
That is correct, and
they're significant.
And that is significant, and the fact that when the project got shut down back in March, while we're having to work our way through this, and of course the town's position is, well, we didn't shut you down.
Yeah, you did.
The Franklin County did, but actually you did. If there's pending litigation,
Town did it.
Nobody is going to continue construction if they don't know where they've got to lop two floors off their building. And it's a silly argument, but that's pretty much the best they have.
But let's be very clear. I think we both agree, and I've had some experience with the Franklin County side of zoning and planning, and they have been outstanding.
They have.
We're not. This isn't the criticism that we're leveling here, so please don't misunderstand some of these accusations that may not, sit well with you.
No, I will say this unequivocally: Franklin County is fortunate, very fortunate. The chief building official is John Broughton. John Broughton he's got a wealth of experience because he's coming at it from a contractor. He's done projects. He's got real world experience. He is a true asset.
You can't substitute that.
Yeah. He knows exactly he understands the building process. He knows what it's like to get in these buildings that are 100 years old and what's going to happen. Anybody that has never done a construction project on a building that's 100 years old has no clue as to what goes into it. There is plans that you have when you go into it, and then there's the plans that you have to do once you get into it.
It's a can of worms.
That's exactly right. And if you've never done it, and people stand on the outside and they've never done it, they're like, well, why did you do it that way? Because that's how it has to be done.
Yeah.
Until you gut the building out and get it where you want it.
And I think what we've seen with the internals of the building in its skeleton state is quite remarkable. You've put an enormous amount of capital in putting this skeleton up that is so close to fruition, and then to be thrown these obstacles. You're a very patient man. What I've seen thus far, and it's been very limited, it's impressive as hell. And I wish you all the luck. And I know you're going to succeed, because after 8 years, I'll be damned if I'd give up too.
Well, and the thing about it is, as I've said before, I have a very specific vision for the building. There's not going to be any corners cut. I want it exactly the way I want it to be a showpiece. When people come here, and they can come in, they can bring they can bring their family, they can bring people from Roanoke, and they can have a place. We're going to have in that building. We're going to have something they don't even have in Roanoke. You don't have a 5,000 square foot rooftop dining experience with fire pits and
I'm
leather
very
couches.
excited to be a guest there to enjoy that experience. I mean, and I jokingly say it's on the scale of opulence with the Buckingham Palace, Franklin County government offices, and I say that very tongue in cheek. I see the vision there. I see what you're doing. We should be welcoming this to this community. It's going to be a jewel in Franklin County, in the county seat of Rocky Mount. We should all be proud of this.
It is. And the thing about it is, do I think it's going to spur more development? Probably not, because unless we get a change of management, there's not going to be any development.
They're not going to take this battle on.
No, they're not.
No one else would. I wouldn't.
No, they're not. And that, so I don't expect to see this groundswell of construction, because it's very expensive. Most of the buildings are very, very old. It's very, very costly. You're upside down when you get finished with the building.
We've got the wrong people in the wrong job at the management level of the county.
That is correct. At the town level, if we do not get changes, then this will come to a screeching halt.
Well, there's been historic comments, Billy, if I'm not correct, in saying this, that a number of people have expressed that as business owners, they would not do business again within Rocky Mount because of the council and its structure and its lack of vision and its intransigence and the manner in which it conducts its business.
Yeah.
So for Phillip here to be doing this, I power to you. I mean, bring it.
Well, and at the end of one of the things that I said, somebody asked me the question. I said, the bottom line is this: if we get the current, if the people who are reelected through apathy or whatever,
Ignorance
or whatever, whatever word you want, the problem's going to be is the litigation starts again. The only reason that the town manager and the town attorney is incentivized. He's getting paid on an hourly basis. So why would he not want to file a lawsuit? I mean, I don't know how much was spent on this lawsuit. I haven't been able to get it all. I don't know what was paid to Woods Rogers for the lawyer.
Well, I can say right now, Woods Rogers is a very expensive law firm.
So we have one invoice for 1 month that was paid to the town attorney, and it was $21,000. So I don't know how much they've paid Woods Rogers. And I don't know how much they paid the engineering firms. So we don't know because it's so buried. We don't know what the town's spending.
The transparency with town accounting, as I've seen over various FOIA,
they're going to bury it. They're going to bury it. They're going to claim,
Well, actually, now we're talking about the FOIA requests. You mentioned something earlier that I definitely wanted to bring up. Because you submitted a FOIA request for, I believe, some information from a web page that had withdrawn a certain document or whatever it may have been.
Correct.
And
can I finish my?
Let's go on to that, and we'll come back
to that.
Absolutely.
So
I didn't want to forget.
Yes. So anyway, on April 7th of 2022, the Board of Zoning Appeals heard my request for a variance, and they unanimously approved my variance. On both, as I said, on both times, once they reversed the town, and the other ones they approved a variance. So 4 days later, Steve Angle and Town Council had a closed-door meeting.
On one of those closed-door meetings.
On 4/11, and they filed a lawsuit against their own BZA. So here is the beauty of it. This is the best part.
How do you do this?
So the town of Rocky Mount paid for an town attorney, to file a lawsuit against the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the town paid for an attorney for the Board of Zoning Appeals to defend himself against the town of Rocky Mount suing them.
Did we ever hear of conflict of interest?
So you're paying for all that. You're paying to sue yourself. And what I thought was interesting is in the lawsuit, basically they said, the Board of Zoning Appeals is incompetent. Well, the Board of Zoning Appeals was nominated by the very council that called them incompetent and approved by a circuit court judge. But because they disagree with you, now they're incompetent. But
they're no more incompetent than the accuser.
All right. So,
wow, what a jam.
So
you can't
anyway,
make this shit up, right?
So like I said, you need a 3x5 card to try to keep track of who's on first.
Dear Lord.
So the town files a lawsuit, and if you wanted to actually read the whole lawsuit, it's like 15 pages long. I think it's on FOIA Rocky Mount Facebook page,
right.
and they've got all the whole,
which we've got pulled up right here, and we're looking at, and
I'm horrified.
Yeah.
I challenge everyone to look at it. You will be equally horrified, and I guarantee you.
Yeah, I'm going to share the page for anybody to listen. I'm going to share it on the podcast page too. Go follow it. I don't know if we want to give away who is behind that or not. We'll save that for a later date. But
you may change your voting stance on that.
But go on there and read it. Yeah, I mean it's all Freedom of Information Act documents that you can read.
So They filed this lawsuit on 4/13. On 6/1, which is almost 2 months later, they hired Thomas and Litton to disprove my engineer and provided some documents to support their lawsuit. So I would think that you would do that prior, but what do I know?
Again, cart and horse. Roger that.
Correct.
Bloody hell.
So, and then on June 16th, the town attorney, and I've got the documents of the whole. It was a very large. It's called interrogatories and production of documents.
Sounds like mumbo jumbo legalese to me.
Right, but
yeah,
but,
okay.
But it was
Can
it was about 6 pages long, which I figured it cost the town at probably $8,000 to produce it, and so the town attorney filed this for a massive request for documents and answers to questions. Any first-year law student who knows anything, and I'm not a lawyer, but I saw one on TV, and when I'm meeting with my attorney, I said, none of the questions that they're asking they have jurisdiction of. The town doesn't have jurisdiction over any building matters. They have.
That's the county.
The county does. So they filed this massive. So they hired this engineer to bring up all these building related questions, which had nothing that was not in their jurisdiction. They do not have standing.
So no evidence of malice there whatsoever.
No. It was a massive fishing expedition trying to find something to justify. Because what was ended up happening at that point, I started putting up banners giving people timelines, and they're calling town council. So town council can't go, well, yeah, we just think it's too tall. So they had to make it a safety issue. The building was in an imminent domain. It was in imminent of collapse, and it was
not what I've seen from inside. There's every brick in place with every piece of mortar attached. No crumbling.
Correct.
But then, if you'd have been inside the skeleton of the building that I visited this afternoon, as council members, you might be aware of that.
Well, as I said, that's it. I've always said the ultimate insult is ignoring you, and I think they town council wants me to understand I am irrelevant, and that's their opinion of me.
We'll see about that.
So that was kind of on that. So anyway, we had asked in our filing with the court, we asked the court to make a decision, a ruling on whether Article 29-8-1 applied to our building or was it going to be grandfathered. Well, the town did not want to have to answer that, because if the judge ruled against them and said
Case
it doesn't
closed.
apply, well, not only is case closed, now you have malicious prosecution, and it opens them up to all sorts of
litigation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
I wish you every success, by the way.
So on 7/11/22, Steve Angle Town Council held another closed door meeting, and they voted to drop that lawsuit before it ever. So the judge never got a chance to look at it.
So they tied everything up.
They tied everything
They
up.
spent our money on the lawyer fees.
Correct.
They impeded your progress, which ultimately led to probably more taxes, which ultimately led to higher costs as far as.
Could you not insist upon that case being heard?
No, because they were the plaintiff. Since they filed it, they had the right to dismiss it. And the thing about it is the problem that we ran into now is, of course, I had a full crew. I had crews.
You got money bleeding out,
right? And now these crews they didn't know how long it's going to last. They had to go to other jobs. They can't sit around and wait for 4 months.
Yeah.
And so now I'm back in line, waiting for them to finish other jobs to come back to mine. So, we could have been finished in end of June, if not sooner, and now we're probably looking at, next year. So none of that. The worst part about it is that with the taxes on a hotel room it produces $25 a night. Okay. For what we're renting, they're going to get $25 in taxes. We have 19 rooms. So you're talking about almost $500, $475 a night at full occupancy. Well, right now, all the hotels in Rocky Mount are in the 80 to 90% range. So you're looking at they could have had $15,000 a month just in lodging tax. That doesn't include beer and food and
All the other revenues.
Right. Instead, they are spending your dollars like drunken sailors, and
I know about drunken sailors, by the way.
and they're and they don't want, like I said, no one is holding them accountable. They're trying to keep everything as secretive as possible. And once again, you've got a town manager that you've got two people, a town manager, assistant town manager, whose only purpose, for the most part, is to keep the electorate at bay.
I mean, that's probably one of the most un-American things I've heard of late.
Well,
this is extremely disturbing.
Well, here's another thing, and then we will come back to your previous question. So right now there's a reporter working for a local newspaper, and she has been doing a number of stories that are.
This is the Roanoke Times. I can say that, okay.
And the other
a Franklin News Post,
right?
Both newspapers, right? Both rags.
Right.
Yeah, they're laying in the same bed cuddling.
So she's actually done a number of stories that she actually spoke to me today about. She's doing another story about me and it's all very much one-sided. And I told her, I said,
it's a hatchet job,
right? And I said, you did such a one-sided job. You took my quotes and you put part of it and you put ... So you kind of made it into your what you want it to be.
Somewhat disingenuous,
right? So what I think is interesting, but in that story, and I don't know if he was planning to go in that direction. They were talking about the fact that I didn't have in that story, Rocky Mountain. Rocky Mountain has to change the conversation, because right now they can't get me on facts. They've got to change it to make it
Well, so we're now talking about something nefarious.
Right. It's like one of the accusations was that they've had to call the police on me. Well,
that's a classic sign of a hatchet job.
Right. You've got to call the police on me.
What other verbiage on that narrative do you think that exposes a third party? Because I'm going to go down that road, but there's some other verbiage in there that you question. What particularly was some of the wording of some of the questions by this reporter?
Yeah, well,
that suggests something way more in depth.
Right. In the first paragraph, she states, she said that my signs in my building implies that the town is colluding against me. Well, if you go look at my signs,
I'd say that's pretty self-evident, actually.
Well, the interesting thing, at the end of the day, the bottom line is this: I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion. I'm trying to give you information because I want you to come to your own decisions. I don't want to sit there and try to persuade you. This is what's happening to me. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you. I want you to come to the same conclusion. And so if you go back and if you go down, I still have two signs in my building. It's got dates and it tells you what happened. You make your own decision. Correct.
Take note, folks.
So, but what I thought was interesting is, I didn't use the word colluding in my conversation, whether she came up with the word colluding. Well, if you look at the definition of colluding, it is meeting in private to gain an advantage. I think that having a closed-door meeting and filing a lawsuit against me kind of...
That's collusion and conspiracy as well.
I'll put it even further that, and this isn't the first time that this has happened. There's been a number of issues with the local press, and I'm talking about Franklin News and the Roanoke Times, that have been disparaging and have been fed by third parties with information that slants the news, and it seems quite clear to me that if it isn't members of town council, then it is Steve Angle himself feeding information to Molly at the Roanoke Times to make a disparaging article on someone who's just looking to do the best that he can within a framework that doesn't require persecution from town council or the town mayor, and he's just looking at a fair shake of the stick, and he's not getting it. And this is persecution. It's malicious, and now you're going to involve the press to do a hatchet job, and I'll make that accusation because I don't give a shit. I'll call you out, and this is unacceptable. Totally unacceptable.
Well, here's what's actually interesting about the quote unquote the police being called. First time I went down, I asked to see Robert Woods, who's the town manager. And so if you go into the town building, you've got a glass door you can't get through. It's all locked. Then you've got a second area that's all locked. And then the town manager is behind another door, which he can lock. So I go in there to ask to talk to Robert Woods, and they go, he's not available, but he will be soon. Well, I knew right there that was a red flag. I ended up calling my contractor. I said, get down here now. I don't care what you're doing. I need a witness here. So my contractor comes down there. We're standing there. Next thing you know, the police show up. And the woman comes out from behind the closed door, and she says to the police officer, she goes, there he is. And he goes, what is he doing?
Waiting for an appointment to see the assistant town manager?
And she said, he wants to see the town manager. And the cop said, I mean, the cop is 3 feet away from me. And he goes, I understand, but what is he doing? So
please tell me some threatening information that you consider law-worthy of my presence.
They ended up, they let him in. He went through those 2 locked doors. They closed the door to the town manager. They put a chair outside and posted that police officer there. I looked at my contract. I'm like, we're not going to be seen. Let's leave. So that was the first time. Okay. The second time that I was done, I went down there because John Boitnott, the town attorney, filed a lawsuit against me. Well, I got a phone call. They said, we're trying to serve you. So I said, well, who's trying to serve me? They said, John Boitnott is.
I know John Boitnott. I love him dearly. Bless him. However,
so
carry on.
So I ended up going over to his office over here. And I said, John, you're looking for me? He goes, no, I'm not looking for you. I said, John, I just got a phone call that they're trying. He goes, oh, the process server. I said, okay, let's not really play. I said, he goes, well, we're suing you. I said, who's suing me? He goes, the town. I said, for what? He said, to overturn the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I said, why? And he goes, Phillip, I represent the town. Please leave. And I said, well, who do I ask a question? He said, if you have a question, go see Robert Woods. I went over to see Robert Woods. Well, there's a town council meeting that night. And then I'm standing out in the parking lot. There's a door open. I go through the door. And I'm told
that's an open door, a bit like January the 6th, right?
Yeah, there was an open door, and I go in, and the woman goes, "You're not supposed to be in here." I'm like, so I
close the damn door.
And I said, and then they go, well, they said, well, you should have seen it said employees only. I said, ma'am, the door is open. The door, there was no sign to see. So, and then of course, then Robert Woods is out there. I'm asking him questions. I don't work for you. Et cetera, et cetera. I said, Robert, there's a town council meeting in 2 hours. I need to get ready. Just give me this information and go on your way. He ends up calling 911. The police show up, and the police who came in were brought in for one reason and one reason only. It was an intimidation and a bullying tactic because they showed up with like 6 cops.
What the hell is going on here?
As I told somebody, I said, I had to quit going to the gym because I'm just so intimidating right now. I mean, I just had to, I said, and so I'm talking to the police officer and I said, so what's the charge? He goes, well, we don't have any.
And off you go.
And then, so,
off you go.
And so anyway, I end up leaving. No charges were ever filed. So, and then of course, in the news story right there, she said they called the police on me a 3rd time and I wasn't even there. That's actually in the Roanoke Times article.
Yeah, we got it up right here. We're reading it. You can find it anywhere. And I'll read this article, and it says, and this is just a portion of it, but it says, unfortunately, in some of the interactions we've had with Mr. Bane, he has been very combative, and I think this is Robert Woods speaking. In fact, it's gotten to the point where, on 3 different occasions, when Mr. Bane has been at the municipal building, the police have been called because the employees were either concerned about their own safety or the safety of their employees. It's unfortunate and not something that happens normally at our building, town manager Robert Wood said. Well, speaking for Billy Riddle and not Simon or Mr. Bane or anybody else, Mr. Wood, if that's your biggest concern and that's your biggest fear of safety, you've got a rude awakening coming for you, because if you continue to screw the people of this town over, and once they start getting wind of this, you have a lot bigger problems on your hand. And I'm not saying tar and feathers should be brought back, but if tar and feathers do get brought back, it's potentially that you brought it on yourself. This is unacceptable. This decorum, these tactics.
Oh, the tactics are. I mean, this is juvenile. You need to be, if you're not held accountable by your accuser, which you have every right to do, and Philip here is asking questions in a civil manner. What the hell is threatening about that? If you feel threatened from the decisions that you make, you may want to look a little bit internally to consider the decisions that you have made have been criminal.
Well, and at the end of the day, I'm one person. There is,
3 locked doors.
3 locked doors,
and the police on immediate attention, and then 6 of them come buzzing in. You know, the police unfortunately have just got a shitty job to deal with these criminals.
And the thing about it is, you know, as I said, it was unfortunate for the police because they're in a no-win situation.
Of course they are.
They answer to the town manager. But as I said to him, you know, when the police officer came in, I said, okay, well, arrest me. What is my crime? It's not a crime to question people who my tax dollars are paying for. It's not a crime
that are acting maliciously,
right,
and persecuting you,
correct,
in a business dealing.
That's right.
It blows my mind.
And the thing about it is, that's just it. They see you pay your taxes and
they're above the law.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yes, this is my way or the highway.
That's exactly right.
Guess what? Kiss my ass.
And the thing about it is, Robert Woods, he's not a stupid man.
I would hope not. $150,000 a damn year.
But the thing about it,
that's baseline now.
Yeah,
no, I'm being cheap.
And the thing about it is, Robert Woods knows that as long as he carries out the wishes of the ones that want him to carry it out,
Steve Angle,
correct. He's not gonna have to worry about
no, because his back's covered.
That's right.
Because he's always going to get
an
increase in salary, which is part of what's going on with that contract.
That is exactly right.
This is absolutely despicable.
Wake
up, people! Wake up!
So that was you know.
Wow. You're a very patient man.
You know,
much more than I can handle.
And then, of course, then you go into the next thing, and it states that for the past year I've been embroiled in a zoning dispute. I wasn't embroiled in zoning dispute. There was no zoning dispute. It was an abuse of power dispute because
there was nothing zoning.
There was nothing zoning about it. I already had an approved plan for the sidewalk. They applied. There is no ordinance for the height of my building. They had nothing. That's why they dropped the case. It has nothing to do. So it wasn't a
it's never been a zoning dispute.
It's always been. We have the power. We're going to use that power.
But what do you think that is? I mean, because everyone's going to swing around and scratch their heads and going, what the hell is this about? And I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing you as a very patient, reasonable man who's looking to do the right thing, has got a great product, has got a great development for the benefit of many, many people within the town of Rocky Mount, and dare I say it, within the community of Franklin County. And I'm not seeing why this is happening to you. I mean, have you got, other than a personal malicious dispute?
No, there isn't. And the thing about it is, it was actually, I've had several interesting conversations. First of all, you've got a mayor. A mayor of a town does not. I mean, if you watch Steve Angle walk in the streets, he doesn't interact with anybody. He may be interacting now because he
needs a vote.
Because he needs a vote.
There you go.
But if it wasn't election time, Steve Angle would not give you the time of day. And as I said, he voted he walked by my building, with the whole construction, has never even acknowledged me. The man has never spoken to me. And he will walk past me.
So
and
what's behind this? I just...
Well, here's the conversation I had with someone who worked for the town. I was told I was not deferential enough when I came into Rocky Mount, and that I should have, when I bought that building and had plans, I should have come to the town and asked them for their input. Well, here's the problem I have with that. Number one, you tell me one project that the wise men that are running Rocky Mount have done.
Oh, we got one. I want you to finish this story, and we're going to go into that one.
And then they offered no financial assistance, nothing. Why would I go to them when I've got all the resources? I'm putting all the work into it.
You're putting all the money behind it. You're a facilitator.
That's exactly right. And then of course,
here comes the second one.
And then of course, once I stood, people, the government, the Rocky Mount governs by bullying. They are nothing but bullies. And the thing about they've been able to push people around, cow people. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is this. If I was not fortunate enough to have life experience and resources, they would have run right over me.
Yep.
I will not back down, period. Those who have the ability to fight have an obligation to fight.
That's why they don't like you.
That's exactly right. And I will never, I will go to my grave. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And if we expect our kids to stay here, if we expect to succeed, we have got to stop this bullying and this and getting. I mean, look at the nonsense that went on with the former police chief. All the lawsuits we've got.
How's he being paid still?
Yeah. I mean,
comfortably.
and yes, and the thing about it is, I mean, think about it. Do you think Steve Angle cares about the taxpayer when he's willing to give a golden parachute to somebody who's going to give $100,000? Average pay is $25,000. He's telling someone who's working themselves 40 hours a week, I'm going to give 4 years salary to this guy if he's a screw up, and we have to let him go. The only people that need golden parachutes are people that interview well and perform poorly. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yep, that's exactly what we're seeing. Let me be the first to say, I hope I'm one of the first through your doors as a customer.
Well, thank you.
And fuck you, Steve Angle.
Well, okay.
I told you a second was coming. I've heard enough of this shit. I've heard enough of it.
And when you're talking about and to divert away a little bit, when you talk why I am, and we've had this conversation before on this show, I'm completely against the police because they are appointed by politicians and bureaucrats, and they have to answer to those same people. Now, our sheriffs answer to the public. And that's how it should be. In Rocky Mount, we do not need a police force when the sheriffs can handle everything appropriately, especially when, as I'm looking at this paperwork right here, the chief of police is making $104,000, and the captain is making, let's see here, it's police captain, $92,000. Now, why are we spending $200,000 on two police officers in this town when crime isn't that bad?
Well, the sheriff department. Oh, here we go. This is another little bit of contention because I've had this similar train of thought in that the Franklin County Sheriff's Department, which I fully support. I fully support the sheriff's deputies. I fully support the sheriff. I've got nothing but respect for them and for what they do. And to a certain extent, I don't have that interaction with the Rocky Mount Police. But I don't see them doing anything other than issuing speeding fines. I don't see them coming up to crime scenes. I see the sheriff's deputies doing the grunt work. And I've always wondered, why do we have two different police forces within the same
jurisdiction,
county and within the same town as a sheriff's department and a Rocky Mount Police Department. Please explain. And they've got all lovely new cars and lovely paint jobs, and one's brown and one's blue.
And listen,
Please explain to me what the hell is going on.
And let's be very honest here. This is not a knock on those that are town police officers.
Absolutely
because
not.
I think if you're a good enough one, you would be perfectly fine sitting in the sheriff's department just as well, doing the same exact job. It's like I say when I'm knocking public education.
But why are
I'm
we
not knocking the
funding
teachers.
an upper
I'm knocking
tier?
the system.
Why are we funding that upper tier of management when we have two of them?
That the mayor can essentially use as his, it's no different essentially than.
And use as his private police force.
Exactly.
Well, wait till we get 87,000 IRS agents stomping on our
It's no
door.
different than when the president uses the FBI as his personal lapdogs.
Well, the IRS agents and 87,000 of them is going to change that optic real quick.
Well, here's what I hope to see come out of the police department. Now that we've gotten rid of the previous police chief,
Who's been accused of what, like sexual misconduct?
amongst that's what I've heard of amongst and the interesting thing about it is apparently and all the documents are not out on that. Apparently, as part, not only was he given a golden parachute, but we also indemnified him from
prosecution,
from having to pay any these lawsuits out. So
how do you indemnify against that?
That's easy. The town says we will pay any lawsuits that come out of that.
And who votes on that? The town council.
I don't. Well, that's just it. Like I said, and that's the problem. All this stuff's coming out in piecemeal. One of the things I will say is this is what I hope happens for the Rocky Mount Police Department. I agree. It appears to be redundant. And one of the things I will say is we have a new police chief, Phillip Young, and I've had limited interactions with him, but I've heard people say has the utmost integrity, which is what we need. I think that the hopes is that we get a change of management, and the town can grow, and the police department will get accredited. So it's an accredited agency, and all these things. So we will actually have a more responsive police force,
transparent,
responsive,
ethical,
right? And I think from what like I said, my interactions with Phillip Young is limited. But from everyone who's interacted with him, they said he's the man to get the job done, and I'm actually hoping that's.
Well, we all hope for that. I mean, we all hope that the Board of Supervisors for Franklin County and the administration and the town council and mayor have integrity. But clearly, some of them don't.
And that's what, like I said, but the biggest problem that there is, and it's not just here. It's
this is widespread.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of it has been voter apathy, and so what's the old saying? You get the kind of government that you vote for.
Yeah.
And so
or not vote for,
or not vote for. And so that's what I've said. We have to get involved. We have to hold them accountable, but it has to be. Things have to be put in place where we hold them accountable.
Well, we don't need to be looking at national politics. We're not as the peons in Franklin County. We're not even going to change anything in Richmond. Okay, but what we can change is our immediate environment with our local politicians and representation, and that's across the board. And this is countrywide, statewide, countywide. It's everywhere.
Correct.
These are the only effective measures that we can take as citizens and residents.
And that's one of the things I did a Facebook post, and I said, at the end of the day, the bottom line, even if you disagree with me, vote. Election
but vote intelligently.
Right, I agree. But the election is the only time that the electorate wields all the power. After that, you got to wait another 2 years.
Yep.
And that's just it.
Explain to me. There's one thing that we did miss that I promised that I would bring up because I find it very alarming, and it may seem trivial to some people. But you submitted a FOIA request for whatever it was. It was fairly trivial. It was about a web page that was put up by.
No, that's not. It's not trivial.
Well, it is in the scope of things.
Based off of
In the scope, well, it's actually restricting information is what they're doing. So in that respect, no, it's not trivial. But in the scope of the general management, embezzlement and racketeering and so forth, it's actually fairly trivial. But you put a FOIA request in for information that was publicly available on a web page, and you put that FOIA request in, and I believe, was it the city council?
Town council.
Town
Doesn't
council.
mean town manager.
Town manager then said...
So if the town of Rocky Mount just got a new web page, and under the old web page, you could go and pull off the minutes from town council meetings and the BZA and all those meetings all the way back to 2000.
It's funny how that's been amended.
Could you pull the minutes from the closed door sessions?
No, the closed.
Okay, because
well, and the problem is there's I think they said there's 290 closed door meetings that and remind me, and we'll come back from because I don't want to go down a rabbit trail just yet. So we went and the old web page, it went all the way back to 2008. And of course,
and they libraried and archived all the minutes that were accessible.
Correct. So you could.
Funny how the new one isn't.
So the new one goes back, I believe, a year. So I ended up calling the town manager. I called and I said, "Why is this?" And they said, "Well, it was a new website." And I said, "But why?" And then it was, "Well, it takes too much to." It takes too much.
How many kilobytes are you looking to store?
Right.
Come on, we're not idiots.
Right. And
country bumpkins.
And so,
mouth breathers.
I wanted to
slack jaws.
So it was actually. So here was actually what was interesting. So I then talked to I said, well, okay, fine. I said, do you have it in a hard copy? And they're like, well, yes, we do. And I said, okay, I want to come in. And they said, well, you tell us what you want to see and we'll send it to you. I said, I don't know what I want to see. I want to sit there and review. Well, we can't let you do that because you might destroy the minutes. Well, and
but you've got a digital copy, you're backing it up, right?
Oh, right. And then it was, well,
slack jaws.
And then it was, well, see, what's actually interesting now is, so I just found this out and I did a Freedom of Information Act on this as well. Robert Woods sent out an email that if, and this is secondhand information.
Okay.
So I asked Robert Woods to actually send me the email, and he goes, "You FOIA it, and you'll get it." But I've been told that he sent an email out that says that no town employee can meet with me without a police officer present. And if I walk into the town building, they're to call 911.
I'm feeling very intimidated right now.
Well,
Phillip,
yeah.
I've got to say, I left my firearm in my vehicle.
So I want to get a copy of that.
Absolutely. How dare you? That's
then,
slanderous.
And then I want to get a copy of they have this video. I've asked for the video of this because they keep talking about this alleged. Where I was such a bad boy in the building, and I've asked for the video, and we're going to get it through a Freedom of Information Act. What I think is ironic is, as a taxpayer, I've got to pay to get a copy, but according to the reporter from Roanoke Times, the town gave her a copy. So
they can give it to the press that may have been fed Steve Angle. And how much were they going to charge you for this copy?
We don't know yet. So they've got to come back with a budget.
Was there a number floated around on another document that you asked about?
So back to that. So anyway, I was trying to get the records that was previously on the website.
Right.
So they had to give me because if it goes over a certain dollar amount, they're required under the Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, but who makes up that dollar amount?
Well, actually, I think it's actually in the FOIA. I think if it goes above $300, they have to tell you before they do any work. I believe. And I think that's actually.
But who decides that dollar amount?
I think it's Richmond. Richmond put that number in. I think that's actually part of the Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, but who's saying it goes over $300? Oh, I need one piece of paper. Oh, well that's $301.
Well, it was actually interesting because I got a quote back for the documents that I wanted for $1,400.
How many pages roughly was that, do you think?
I was probably thinking 20, 30 pages.
20, 30 pages at $1,400. That's actually goes against the intent of FOIA requests because that is clearly unreasonable. And that is the wording in there, unreasonable.
Correct. But I actually sent the to the FOIA officer for Rocky Mount, and he responded very tartly that they can charge a reasonable expense. And,
that's not reasonable.
It gets down to, what your definition of reasonable, and he's going to go with his. So, So these people now not only are not translucent, they're totally unaccountable, and they're making this shit up as it goes along.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, and the thing about it is,
wankers.
At the end of the day, the bottom line is this. I think that they realize that there's an election in 5 weeks. So they're going to do whatever they can because if things stay status quo, heaven help us. Because you think litigation's now? You wait. If it stays status quo, all hell's going to break loose in the courts.
And again, who really ends up paying the bill?
The taxpayer's bad.
The taxpayer.
But if they don't, if there is a change and they realize people are coming in, because that was one of the questions. Why do we need an assistant town manager when all these other localities have bigger and their
their budgets? Our budgets can't support an assistant town manager, and by all accounts, he appears to have been the horse's arse.
Well, and the interesting thing about it is, as I said, since 1998, I've done bankrupt companies. Somebody asked that question: why do we have these people, and why are we paying so much? The mayor gets up and he goes, "Well, these people are always busy." And I said, "You know what? Every bankrupt company I've gone into, everybody's always busy." I said, "So what you do is," I said, because and
self-perpetuating, right?
Right, and the problem I had with what the mayor did, he didn't even give it any. I mean, he just had an answer. We need to stay the course, status quo. What he should have said was, well, if the town doesn't think that we need this, let's do a time study. Let's find out what our employees are doing. I've done that in so many companies. You go in, you find out what the employees are doing, because what you're going to end up finding is they're not doing anything. And,
well, it's its own job creation, which
Correct.
I'm talking about, that self-fulfilling prophecy,
Correct.
right?
Well, so an interesting, funny story. I actually went into a company that everybody was so busy. And when I end up going
on Facebook,
well, basically they were. I mean, Amazon could have made it a shipping center because they were having so much stuff coming in, and it was all, and the company was hemorrhaging money. So see, that's the issue. There's not accountability. All these job titles, and they're paying outrageous dollar amounts.
Zero oversight.
And it's like, you don't tell on me, I won't tell on you, because the only people that's really getting screwed over is the taxpayer. And do we really care about them?
Because they don't know.
That's that they don't know. They don't. Yeah. And people are so, like I said, by the time, I think the reason that we don't get involved in government is by the time we get to the end of our workday, we're exhausted. We don't have time to deal with these.
We're sick of it.
Yeah, but we've reached a point where it's so bad.
It's blatant.
That it's just like it's just like stick it in your face and say, you don't like it, who cares?
Yeah, kiss my ass.
Yeah.
No, actually, kiss mine.
Yeah.
Here we come.
So and I think that's what we're seeing now is why there's this groundswells, because people are like, enough, Yeah.
I think they've reached maximum terminal velocity, right. And impact is imminent.
And that goes with school board, that goes with town council, that goes with board of super, that goes with all of it. And earlier, this is what I want to swing around to. You had mentioned, about the town, what businesses have they provided, what structures have they, become a part of. And I want to go to the Harvester, and I have tiptoed and tap danced around this subject for quite some time, because on one hand, I love supporting the idea.
Well, the arts is a great thing to support,
because this is a crooked road. There are phenomenal artists and musicians from this area that have ties to this area that might not be from around here, that offer an awful lot. Okay, but the Harvester was funded by taxpayer dollars. Why is the government and the town in the business of starting businesses. That should be a private entity. Not only did we not vote on that, did we not approve of that, they just did it on a whim, but they are hemorrhaging money, if I'm not mistaken at this point, hemorrhaging money. And
not supporting local artists.
They're not. They're definitely not. I have not seen.
They were there to do.
We have Crawford and Power. We have the Jared Stout Band. We have the Harwell Grace Band. We have Kyle Forey and Tin Can Locomotive. We have so many local acts. And I cannot tell you the last time I looked at their website or saw one of their promotions where they had somebody here local. And maybe I'm wrong on this. I heard the quote somewhere. It may not be a quote, but it was something along the lines of our mayor said something like, "We're not going to support local acts. They're beneath us." Essentially, was.
Well, you want to go for the big name guys that comes in with a big tour bus, parked it out.
But they're coming here once or twice a month. And how much is the bartender? The guy, the head over the alcohol there, he's making what, like $3,500 every show?
That's something I think that's what it's called.
Somewhere in that range, $3,500 a show, 2 times a month. He's making $7,000. If the harvester is selling $7,000 in alcohol every single month, I will kiss Simon's ass in the front of the court steps. Anytime you would like. And well, there's just
I just got a visual.
There is no
it
way.
Feels good.
They do not belong.
Well, but so here's this is my take on the harvester, because people have asked me that question a number of times. We can't fix what's past. Past is past. We're not going to get the $7 million back that we've lost.
$7 million for this town of 4,900.
What concerns me the most, 4,900.
4,900.
Oh dear. Oh, that's a lot worse.
So here's what concerns me the most is we got $900,000 from the Small Business Administration under the Shuttered Venue Grant.
Right.
We don't know for sure, but as I said, the problem is when you FOIA that you're getting these piecemeals, but it appears
you've got to be very specific.
Yes, it appears that you are that the harvester is hemorrhaging about $100,000 a month right now.
Dear God.
So that shuttered venue money is going to be coming to a close. And it's my understanding that the majority of the employees there are under contracts. So when the money under the shuttered venue runs out, who's going to pick up the $100,000 a month? Well, guess what? 3 guesses.
Optus under contract, so it's the taxpayer yet again.
Right. And so with that being, but do I want the harvester shut down? No.
Absolutely not.
And here's why. As I said, I've gone into too many different companies, and the difference between a profitable company and a abject failure has been, will always be management.
Yep.
And the number one thing I've always said whenever I go into a company is employees never rise above management. Town council is management. The employees are never going to rise above that. We need to look at the harvester, after we get a few things going, the harvester, all the cloak.
We need to make it work.
We need first of all, you got to muck through all the LLCs and the Ponzi schemes and the
the bureaucratic red tape.
Yes,
nonsense.
and find out what is being spent. And say, this is what we're going to have. This is how much we've got to do. Let's bring in the local shows. I've heard the same thing that the mayor says that the harvester is far too grand to bring in a local act.
Illusions
I'm sorry,
of grandeur there, mate.
I'm sorry. It's a square brick building. It was a feed store before. Let your grandiose nonsense
horseshit
go. Let it go. If someone wants to come in and rent it to have a wedding, let them rent it. If someone wants it is a public building.
It's a public venue.
That's exactly right. Make it profitable. And the problem is, here's the biggest issue. You've got 6 people on town council. The majority of them are retirees. I think let's see, who do we I think Tyler Lee is still working. Who else is? John Sneed has a company, but for the most part, they're retirees. Town council is a place to go because there ain't no Netflix shows on Monday, and you get $500 or $600 a month to go rubber stamp
There you go.
the town administration's nonsense. I mean, nobody even asks any question. That's what I find amazing. Go to a town council meeting, 30 minutes, nobody asks any question. And heaven forbid you take longer than 3 minutes, they will drag your butt out of the council building because you know what? It's time. You know they got a schedule to keep.
They've disengaged the citizens and residents.
That's
of Rocky
exactly
Mount.
right. And everybody. I mean,
By design.
you look at it, they are in lockstep. I mean, how you go back and look at the votes? All in favor? Aye. Nope. No's, no nays. It's up.
Well, look, I mean, let's talk about the obvious thing. And when you correlate it with, Phillip, your situation here, okay, the Harvester, let's just take it at its very basic. It is a music venue that has a little bit of credibility at this point in time for the artists that it brings in.
That's a track record.
Now, granted, I would prefer that they support and showcase more local talent, but it is what it is at the moment. So you're bringing in these big acts. Why would you not look at that and say, okay, let's bring in acts that typically will do 2 shows and 2 separate nights, and they will play different set lists. That way, you will bring in the same people 2 nights in a row, or preferably different people 2 nights in a row. Well, what are those people going to do? Because me, as somebody who's traveled to see many, many, many musical acts all over the country, you go, you buy a hotel room, you spend money eating locally, you spend money drinking locally, you spend money going to touristy things, and you go to the show 2 nights in a row. And you might stay for a 3rd night just to see the sights. So why would it not be in the Harvester and the town's best interest to support a hotel that is 2.5 blocks away, a walk? You could drink as many beers as you can, which you can only drink 4 at the Harvester, so I'm not sure why we're paying $7,500 for 2 shows, or $7,000 for 2 shows for a guy if you only can drink 4 beers. But you could essentially stumble.
Who's counting?
You could stumble. Wankers count. You could stumble from the Harvester back to the hotel and be perfectly fine. You're not endangering anybody. You're spending money. Why? That's the simplest of questions as to why, if the town owns a Harvester, why would not be 100% in bed with a boutique hotel that is 2.5 blocks away?
Sorry, I'm in shock. They limit the number of beers that you can drink at the Harvester.
Yeah, we usually have to walk outside and go back to the car and, do what we got to do.
But here's the thing.
I'm in shock. I mean, I need resuscitation.
Here's the simple answer to your question. Whether the Harvester fails or succeeds is totally irrelevant to town council, because at the end of the day, they still get their $600 a month.
It's not their money.
It's not their money. I mean, I'm trying to get the budget. There was supposed to be an $8 million surplus in Rocky Mount, an $8 million surplus, and nobody knows where it went. I know they spent it, but they didn't invest it, and there's a difference.
Yeah, there is,
and
no one knows where it went.
Well, it's all cloaked in secrecy, and that's the problem.
Embezzlement.
Well, I you know what? One of the things
What else can it be?
Well, I tell you what. Here's what I've learned from going from a lot of bankrupt companies. You would be surprised. I call it the Mike Tyson effect, because Mike Tyson made how many millions and how much he go through. Yeah, government, when they're accountable to no one, they don't care what the prices are. They don't. I mean, how much money did we spend on these signs that go Rocky Mount? We're something else. As I said, how much are we spending on these speakers for no pedestrians? I mean, there's
who's making this up? Who thinks that spending a budget because you have a budget is a good idea?
Well, I'll tell you who does. When I worked at the VA, I was there from 1990 to 1998. I got 6 new offices because they had to spend it or use it or lose it, which is a very common nonsense, because they're not going to give it back to the taxpayer. So
why wouldn't they?
Because then you because if the government lets you, if Rocky Mount were not to take that tax dollars from you, you would waste the money on things like food and gasoline. So it's better for them to take it from you. Okay.
Yeah, that's constructed theft, but we know that's another argument that we could go down for years.
And the thing about it is, at the end of the day, people, in my opinion, if the government is being wise in how they use their money, if they're providing the services, if they're taking care of education, people do not mind paying it. It's this throwing money away. I mean, think about it. How would you, now that we know how much the town manager is making and the assistant town manager, how would you feel if you're a 40-year-old person in Rocky Mount making $30,000 a year, knowing they've brought these people in and they're making 5 times, 6 times what you're making?
I'd be very resentful.
Yeah, and then they come to you and they're going to cut your water off because you don't pay the $12.95.
Wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. but it's that total disconnect from the very public that they're supposed to be serving.
And I think we're experiencing this whole disconnect across the country, which is why we're in such a divided situation right now. And I don't see a happy outcome. I wish I could. I just don't. I don't see.
Well, here's the problem, and I brought this up earlier. Is for so long now, we have been focused on what's going on in D.C. We've been focusing on what's been going on in Richmond. We've been focusing on what the hell some twat waffle like Nancy Pelosi has to say, or Adam Schiff, or any of these people, and we have completely negated our own duty to pay attention to what's going on in our own local governments, town, board of supervisors, school boards. We have neglected that, and you know what? That time is over. That time is up. We are here now. We are paying very close attention, and we're not going to let this slide anymore.
Well, here's what I think is interesting, and it goes back to the news story, and I cannot believe the news story that they put in the Roanoke Times, that the statements that the town manager made, the assistant town manager made. I cannot believe they didn't have Woods Rogers vet it.
Why wouldn't you have a PR guy at least say, actually, that's inappropriate, we can't include that, you shouldn't comment on this.
That's exactly
this is a matter that needs to go through vetting.
Right.
Well, it just shows a complete ignorance, but it shows something far more serious than that. And that's an arrogance.
Correct. And the thing about it is, and here's a good example. So the town, when they filed the lawsuit, the original story that they told the public was the building was too tall. Well, when I put a sign up and said, this is what the zoning ordinance says, this doesn't apply, then it was, the building is unsafe. So the story is morphing.
Which engineer approved that statement?
Which an engineer approved. And once I put that up, then. So what was actually interesting is, so they filed the lawsuit in April. Well, the county already had the engineering report sealed. So, but what I think is interesting is, this is where the lack of accountability comes into play. This was in the Roanoke Times. So the only issue, anybody that's been into court knows that the judge doesn't let you go down some rabbit trail. What you're suing for is what you're suing. The fact that your cousin didn't do something 3 years later
is irrelevant.
So they filed a lawsuit with the circuit court stating this building violates this zoning code because it's too tall. They then go to the Roanoke Times, and this is what they tell the Roanoke Times, and it's in that article. According to Robert Woods, our purpose in filing the appeal was to ask the court to require them to provide all the engineering detail and all the engineering certification that would be required for any building. Well, first of all, Rocky Mount, once again, has no jurisdiction over any engineering plans. They have no engineers on staff. The jurisdiction falls with Franklin County, and you can't. And so the bottom line is this: you have a town that is going to file a frivolous lawsuit to try to force a citizen to provide them documents they're not entitled to, so that they can have oversight of something that they have no jurisdiction
over.
Right.
Wow. That about wraps it up.
Well,
And that lawsuit also, let's once again remind the listeners that is being paid for by your tax dollars, that you're wondering why we can't get the town up to par, why we can't invest in better things.
And have a
because that's where your money's going. That's where it's going. Why your
Main
property
Street.
taxes are going up. That's why,
But
right there.
unfortunately, that's not the end of it. Because if you order now, I can get you a bonus. I can get you a set of Ginsu knives if you order now.
Right on.
The next paragraph, they state, the town withdrew its appeal once the county assured the town that it would require revised plans before lifting its stop work order. Once again, has nothing to do with the town.
Nope.
The revised plans, it wasn't revised plans, it was an as-built plan. That was already in the works. The Franklin County has to do inspection. They have to have the plans. That was never the issue. So that's it. What they're trying to do is they're trying to change it. They're throwing out these red herrings and trying to, go.
This is corruption.
Well, they're trying. Like I said, they're trying to take the attention off the fact that they just went down a huge rabbit trail, and they were hoping that the lawsuit would intimidate. Where I would go, okay, well, what do you want? But once again, I'm not going to back down. I will lose being on the side of right before I'll acquiesce on the side of wrong.
Good man. We support you in that statement alone. And they should take note of that because this hotel will open.
It will
and
open.
I will go through that.
It will open, as I said. And here's the promise I make. If the public supports me and puts me in town council, they're going to have somebody on the inside that's going to say enough. And in my opinion, the reason the reason I think that the Roanoke Times and I'm seeing so much vitriol come out towards me is because I have the skills. I can go in and I can find out what's going on. And I think that scares.
Well, they're being fed from the inside, so let's make no bones about that. So when it comes to voting for council, Phillip Bane is your man. Take note, folks. This has got to stop.
I agree.
Yeah, and as far as everything else is concerned, and we're going on 2.5 hours now, so we're going to wrap it up for everybody. We're going to get him on again at some point in time, either before or after when the hotel comes up. And there's other people in this town as well that maybe we could bring on with him as well that have had issues with the town, because I know from what I've heard and personal experience and speaking with people, there are other business owners that aren't necessarily from here that have businesses in this town that have gone through a lot of the same issues, the same rigmarole, maybe not quite to the same extent. But
I've got a quick question for you.
Okay.
Do I have permission at the opening to drink more than 4 beers?
You can. I'll get you a second wristband.
Right on. The challenge is on. Game on.
Well, Simon, I don't know about you, but I would venture to say after this that you and I, and especially you, well, because you already had a giant X on your back. Now
I don't care.
that has grown exponentially. I've got one on my back as well now too, and that's fine and dandy with me. But because at the end of the day, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. I'm tired of seeing growth stifled. I'm tired of seeing people picking winners and losers for no other reason other than, selfish reasons. And you know what? At the same time, for everybody we've spoke about on this show tonight, that's the mayor, that's town council, that's board of supervisors, school board, anybody that holds any kind of public office in this town, this is your open invite to come on to this show and give your side of the story. Come on here. Don't bring your lawyer with you, because if you want to do that, I'll bring my lawyer too. We'll go ahead and we'll play that game if we have to. I know a ton of them. But come on here, and if you have the balls, come on here and say your side of the story. We're opening that up for you. I always like to hear both sides before I make any kind of judgment. With that being said, I know how this town operates. I know how it's operated for an awful long time. I also know how the government operates, and I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt. They have never given me a reason to, and I'm not going to start right now. So I'm inclined for no other reason than that to side with Phillip on this whole deal. And even if it wasn't boiled down to those metrics, I'm still going to believe him because I've spoke with him, I've talked to him, and I can read people, and the information is out there. It's as simple as that. You can go read it. You can go see it. It's all public record. You can see the timeline that he has laid out for us tonight. That he is in the right. It's indisputable.
It's indisputable.
So if you want to come on and try and dispute it, by all means do it. I know election season's coming up, and I will be willing to bet a wooden nickel that no public official, I won't say no, maybe one will come on here, but anybody that has been grilled tonight will not dare come into this fire den and sit down in front of you.
Well, the best thing you could do is resign, because the game's up.
Yeah.
It's blatantly obvious.
So come on, I will open that up to you. But with all that being said, look, we're sick and tired of this. The citizens of this town, the citizens of this community, and look no further than our Facebook post today, where multiple people said, this is the system, this is how it goes, we're tired of it, get these people out of here. That is a very genuine response that I have never seen on any Facebook post I have made as far as this podcast is concerned. People in this town, people in this county are genuinely sick and tired of it. So
we need ethics. We need integrity. We need transparency. And we have none of those.
No, not at the moment.
We have none of those. And we should be absolutely disgusted with ourselves for allowing this.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of not paying enough attention.
Yeah.
I am very much guilty of that, but that is no more. And if it comes down to it, I mean, fuck all. 4 years from now, I will be running for mayor. Not even county council. I'm bypassing do not pass go, do not collect $200. I will run for mayor of this town. So whoever is in line next, whoever ends up winning it, if it continues to keep up.
Well, and I've already said, they're like, oh, it's too much gigabytes of data. That's nonsense. As much money as we throw away, the thing about it is, if all that data was out there, then you put it out there for the citizens, say, you review it, and then you come to town council. We are going to have a town hall meeting. You're going to be able to talk to us. We're not going to sit there behind the dais and say, peasant, be gone.
They'll never do town halls because they're cowards.
Yeah. And
well,
hey,
strong word.
I think, you know what? I tell you what, I have, one of the things I can honestly say, I have greatly enjoyed walking and talking to people and hearing them, because they're all saying the exact, it's like the
common
same
thread, right?
script. It's the same thing. They're tired of no jobs here. They're tired of their kids not getting the education they're tired of going away for shopping and dining. They're tired of opportunities. And as I said, all they're getting back in return is signage, and like I said, we've got a nice wrapping, but the box is empty.
Yep.
And the town council and the town administration don't have the skills, and they don't know how to do anything except this rubber stamp, try to keep everything, just try to keep the electorate under control and keep collecting their outrageous checks.
And therein lies the problem.
yes. And this is Appalachia. This is Franklin County, the place that, stood up back during Prohibition. They fought the law. This is Appalachia, where coal miners stood up to the federal government when they came in and tried to suppress them. Look, we're not a feeble bunch of people. They should have let sleeping dogs lie. And instead, they have taken advantage of us, thinking that we're not going to pay attention anymore, and we're just here to tell you that that's not the case anymore. So, once again, the invitation is out there. If anybody wants to come on this show, sit down with Simon and I, and possibly John, if he can make his way over here, whoever, Phillip, he wants to come back here. If any of y'all want to refute this, want to come on here and speak your side of the story, don't send your attorneys, come, sit, talk. We will be open.
We'll even be polite.
We'll be polite, yes. Yes, you haven't given us much of a reason to be polite, but we will in the spirit of the game. Well, but at the end of the day, enough is enough. Enough is absolutely enough.
You have not earned our vote. Now, I don't have a vote in Rocky Mount, but let me tell you, you have not owned the citizens. You do not own or have been owed the vote from the citizens and residents of Rocky Mount. You have underperformed. You've ignored them. and the arrogance is. Your time is up.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we're back at level 0 right now. We're about to start over, and for whatever happens from here on out, you've got up in our asses, and that's not a good place to be because you're held accountable to us. It's not the other way around, and I'm not going to put up for it. You can send your goons, you can send whoever you want to send. I really couldn't give a shit less. I have been to far worse places in Rocky Mount, Virginia. I've dealt with far worse people. I've had people trying to kill me for no other reason than existing. So send your best. I'm not gonna sit back and let the people of this county and this town anymore put up with this nonsense. We will expose you every single day if we have to. And I don't want to do that. I would rather sit down in this room.
I'd sooner congratulate you for a job well done.
I would rather congratulate you. I'd rather have musicians on here. I'd rather have anybody other than having to do. I would rather sit on here with Phillip and talk about how awesome his hotel is and how it's open and how he's had so many customers at this point in time. Instead, we're sitting here talking about why that hasn't happened. Don't want that, but it's life. And here we are. So, Phillip,
get out and vote, folks.
You are running for town council. Is there anything coming up here in the next month or so that you would like to let everybody know they can come attend, see you, ask questions, anything?
I'm actually planning to have just a chat with the candidate over at the hotel for the people that actually would like to look at the hotel and just sit and have a conversation with me. I would welcome it because, once again, if you give me your vote, I work for you. And
hallelujah,
it's I want to treat the electorate just like I would want to be treated, and it's not very well right now. Right now, we're not being treated very well, and there's no accountability. And I have the skill sets that we're going to find out. The information that you're looking for is going to be put on the website. All the things that's been cloak and dagger and hidden, we're going to shine a light on it. We're going to get it out there. Let you make the decision. Let you read it. You have questions. I will be more than happy to sit down with you when the information is out there and discuss it. And let's make Rocky Mount what we want it. Let's make it a thriving community. There's absolutely no reason that it cannot be thriving like all the communities around us.
Yeah.
So if that's what we want, then we've got to make the changes today. If we want a better tomorrow, we got to make the changes today. So I am going to ask for your vote, and I would also put an endorsement in for Holland Purdue as the mayor. We need a new mayor, and I also would put a plug in for Ben Mullins. We need his youth, we need his energy, and we need his wisdom. We need these people on town council so that we can get the things done.
Yeah, and if either one of y'all want to come on the show, Holland, or hey, look, give you every opportunity in the world. Lesser of two evils at this point in time, if that's how you want to look at it. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as Holland, if you're willing to make this jump, come make this jump. But come on here and let us know what you plan on doing for the town, and you'll get our endorsement. You know what I mean? I'm inclined to sit there and just give him my pseudo endorsement simply because Phillip has given it to me right now, and I trust his input. But hey, Holland, if you're out there, you want to come on here and make a change, you know how to reach me. I'm right here in Rocky Mount. There is no excuse for anybody on the town council or anybody running for office or anybody trying to speak up that can't make their way down here to my dwelling and jump on this show. So, Simon, I know this is
it's always fun.
This is right up your alley.
Oh, this one, you've got to have passion about something, right? And when things piss you off, if you don't address it and you try and brush it underneath the rug, you're doing yourself the greatest of disfavors. And you've got to fix it.
And I have a great passion for my community. This is my hometown.
This is our doorstep.
I could have went anywhere else in the world. I could have went tons of different places. I could have settled down anywhere else. I wanted to come back here and figure out a way at some point in time
to make
it work and to make it matter.
Leave it better than you left it.
Exactly. So, for Phillip Bane, running for Town Council of Rocky Mount, Simon Winch, the breaker of school board members, and I'm Billy Riddle. We sincerely appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time.
Go and vote.